Yeah, so apparently they're going to arrest Trump tomorrow, and a lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people are claiming it's not true, despite the fact that Trump himself tweeted it, but Trump may have been tweeting it based off news reports, so we really don't know for sure, other than in New York, they are starting to put barricades around the Manhattan Manhattan District Court. So a lot of people are assuming that these barricades imply they're intending to issue an indictment for Donald Trump for the arrest, which would require extradition, likely from Florida, but this would result in massive protests. We will see. We don't know. But the New York Times is reporting outright that the New York authorities are preparing for the unprecedented arrest of an ex-president. Woo! Oh boy! New York tries to arrest a former president who's the current front runner. Florida would have to extradite him, but Ron DeSantis is basically saying we're not getting involved, so we'll see what happens. Some people, what will happen? Some people are saying that he doesn't have the authority to deny it, but he might just say F off, I'm not getting involved anyway. So he may not necessarily say screw off, I won't do it. He might just be like, hey man, don't look at me, and passively. But if Ron DeSantis allows the indictment of Donald Trump, there is no way DeSantis will get anywhere near the presidency. And if Donald Trump gets arrested, it's probably going to dramatically help his presidency. Oh, so okay, instead of just opining already, we'll get into this. Before we do, head over to timcast.com and click that join us button to become a member and support our work. You'll see it right there on the left menu side. When you click that button, you can then sign up to become a $10 a month member and get access to the uncensored live after show Monday through Thursday. We put those up around 10 p.m. And there's something else now. We have a Discord server where you can hang out and chat. There are rules, because the goal of the Discord is to have a more academic conversation around our views, what's going on in the news, and a way that we can connect with you, which means if we just said, hey, it's a free speech thing, say whatever you want, we'd get banned in 2 seconds and it would serve nobody. So we'll do what we can to create that path so that you can chat with us. We can hear stories that you think that you're interested in that maybe we'll want to talk about. Like you say, hey, look at this story. I'll say, oh, that's really good. And more importantly, if you become a $25 a month member for the first time, you instantly get access to the VIP lounge, which allows you to submit call-in questions for the after show. And anyone who's been a member for at least 6 months has instant access as well. I'm pretty sure if you're a $25 per month member, after 6 months, you can just drop down to $10. We're just trying to create a way to keep out the weirdos. So there's a pay gate and a time gate. I wish there was an easier way to do it, but that's the best we can do. Becoming a member just helps us run the company. And then for anybody who's really interested, there's an elite club room with only a handful of people in it, where we'll probably have crew, people like me, Ian, Phil, other Timcast.com employees hanging out. That's the elite club. It's $100 a month. We're intending to make that something bigger that would be tied to physical spaces as well. So if you don't want to sign up just yet for it, I understand, but we're trying to make some kind of social club thing where we can, people can pitch ideas and work with each other so that we can expand out entrepreneurship. If you're somebody who's trying to get involved with a bunch of other people, sit down and have those meetings with a physical location. There's a lot coming in that regard, but become a member to support our work. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. It's the best way to help. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is James Klug.
How you doing? Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. You guys, I am a YouTuber at James Klug on YouTube. We specialize in man on street videos, and also you guys, huge fan of the show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. There you go. Well, thanks for coming. This should be fun. We got Shane Cashman. He's got a book, apparently.
What's up, guys? Yeah, I have the new Tales from the Inverted World Volume 2 book. This is my story of going down to Washington, Georgia, looking for the Confederate gold, finding some demon-possessed people, talking to people who talk to ghosts, looking at UFOs, aiming AR-15s at UFOs over the tree line. Good stuff.
Sounds very dangerous.
And the Guidestones, and my side quest of trying to figure out who bombed the Guidestones.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
And we forgot to take the Irish flag off the wall.
That works. I'm Irish, so I'll take it.
We were studying people with having exorcisms and things, and some people, I think Kara mentioned that it may be people that are having like epileptic fits, but they untreated before they knew what epilepsy was, and then they'd start screaming, and then they'd be like, "Oh my God, there's like a demon inside." But I don't know. Did you?
I think for different people, they have different ways of interpreting it. I think I met some people who were filled with something that I can't fully explain.
It's in the book.
Yeah.
Nice branding, by the way. I'm Ian Crossland, everybody. What's happening? Hey, Serge.
Yo, and I am Serge.com. What's up, guys? Hope you're well.
Just before we get started, some people are saying they tried to sign up for the Discord. They're having issues. If you do ever have any issues, email members@timcast.com. We'll get it sorted for you. I think there's, like 1,500 people hanging out in the Discord chatting all right now. And I think about 1,000 plus are already in the VIP lounge chat. simply because they've been members for long enough. So hang out, man. We got it set up where we are trying to figure out, like, if you have 1,000 people, how do we get someone to call in? Because it still means you're a 1 in 1,000 chance. You know, if 50 people submit a question, only one person is going to get in. So maybe we'll do like 2 or 3 questions per day. But we'll try our best. We'll try our best. Anyway, let's jump into this first story from the New York Times. New York authorities prepare for unprecedented arrest of an ex-president ahead of a likely indictment. Law enforcement officials are making security plans as some of Donald J. Trump's supporters signal that they intend to protest. Donald Trump called for them to protest. Here's the video. Robert Costa said steel barricades arriving outside Manhattan criminal court. Okay, I said district court, or correct, district court earlier. Correction, criminal court. And they're getting ready for it. I do not believe that they would put up, wow, he's got a lot of videos of this. Holy crap. I don't believe they would do this unless they actually were planning to indict Trump. Because if they don't indict him, there'd be no protest.
Right.
Nothing would happen.
This is where I saw, like, when I was deciding if it, like, you know, if it's going to happen tomorrow or not, that was a big indicator for me. Did you guys see what MSNBC said when it came to Trump's calls for protests? They're saying, you know, calling
for another January 6th?
Yeah, calling for people to pick up arms.
What?
That's the way that they're interpreting it. It's like
to pick up arms?
Yeah, pick up arms and or calling for violence.
Crazy.
That's what it is now. Yeah. So
just like,
you know.
it's just like how they interpreted January 6th. Like when they hear certain words like we're going to fight for our country, they take it and make it the most vicious interpretation.
Oh, YouTube does the same thing
all the time.
I got to tell people, like, if they want to give you a strike and you say something, you got to fight for your right. Like, whoa, wow, that's a call for violence.
Yep.
These insane standards that they hold for the right, it's so comical too. Be like 2020, the riots of 2020, they would do everything that they could to basically work it down. If a super violent riot, they would work it down to just being, it's just some people. There's like a whole parking lot on fire, and that's the standard that they hold
police
themselves
station
to.
was burning down and they're like fiery but mostly peaceful. That's where the meme comes from.
Like in Portland at the Marco Hatfield Federal Courthouse, trying to burn down the courthouse with federal agents inside, and they're still not reporting on it. All Trump has to say is, hey, go protest, and that's a call for action, a call for violence.
I didn't hear his call, but what was it like? If he gets arrested, he wants people on the street.
He said
like,
protest.
No,
he said protest.
He
Out.
said protest and we need to take our country back, which they also interpret as something
It's
malicious.
so vague. Like, should he be more specific? Like, be here at this time, protest illegal or unjust arrests of presidents and things like that?
I want to read this real quick. Sorry. This is from the New York Times because there's interesting framing here. They say, if Donald Trump is indicted by a Manhattan grand jury in the days ahead for his role in a hush money payment to a porn star, the former president of the United States of America will be read the standard Miranda warning. He will be told that he has the right to remain silent and the right to an attorney. These are among the routine steps for felony arrests in New York. But the unprecedented arrest of a former commander-in-chief, one whose devoted supporters once staged a violent attack on the Capitol, will be anything but routine. Let me pause there for a minute. Is Trump being charged with a felony?
I don't know. No.
My understanding is that it was a misdemeanor.
It was a misdemeanor.
If guilty, they're seeing that as a misdemeanor, and that's 2 years that they can go after that after the
there must be a mistake
crime
here.
that they're talking about.
Let me.
Statute of limitations is like 2 years in New York State for a misdemeanor, 5 years for a felony.
But they're trying to tie it to campaign malfeasance, finance malfeasance, to take it off past the.
That's how they're trying to extend it
years.
past that 5 years, even, because we're talking about a DA that's looking at something that's typically, if guilty, maybe a misdemeanor at best. But they're trying to go for not only a felony, but they're trying to go for a felony past that 5 year
They
mark.
are trying to charge him with a felony.
Yeah.
That was my point, because they said a routine step for felony arrests is a clever wording trick to make it seem like he's being charged with a felony if he isn't. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like if I were to say something like, I am going to arrest James here, then I will read him his Miranda rights, which is normal in felony arrests. It's like the reader then thinks you committed a felony when it could be like you were jaywalking and I'm giving you a citation or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They just put the word there so it goes in your brain.
Exactly.
And you assume that's what it means.
No, it's tricky wordplay. It assumes guilt right away.
When did this supposed bribe, is that what it is for Stormy Daniels, hush money, when did it get paid?
2016, before the election. That's what they were talking about. I guess it happened, like the action that they're all talking about happened, they were saying 2006, and then 2016, this hush money, more of like a NDA. Hush money is
Right.
Do people usually say that for an NDA? Hush money?
I don't think
Seems
so.
a
I
little
think
bit-
hush money is like when you commit a crime. You know what I mean? Like if someone catches you committing a crime and you're like, I'll give you money if you don't say anything.
Right. Hush money
This is
seems
just an
suspicious.
NDA. This is like they hooked up and he's like, but don't tell anybody, and we come to an agreement on non-disclosure. It's like
Right.
it's like a contract.
Right.
It's like I'll give you X money in exchange for X behavior. I don't know if there's any. How is that illegal?
Well, and a lot of people were also talking about it possibly being some sort of like nuisance, or hopefully that's the right phrase, payment. Because $130,000 when you're trying to win an election, if they were actually, if it was
right.
for that purpose, right? If it was for that purpose that they're arguing, $130,000 to a billionaire seems a little bit low, doesn't it? Especially
Yeah, what was
when
it?
it comes to
She was going to write a book or
if
something.
it was the case. Like if it was the case, if he cheated on her or whatever, if he was trying to keep that quiet.
I honestly, I think
they pay more than that.
I think it's all nonsense. You know,
If they can arrest him for this, we should be able to arrest every president right now for
Well,
everything else.
We got to look at the Tar Reid allegations against Joe
Yes.
Biden. You've got to look at the Hunter Biden
More criminal
allegations with
stuff.
Burisma and the bribery.
So the allegation against Trump is that he gave some chick he banged money so she wouldn't talk about it. The allegation against Joe Biden is he slammed a woman up against the wall and forced himself on her.
in the
like-
Capitol.
In the Capitol. Now, I'll be to be fair, it was 30 years ago. You're going to be hard pressed to find any evidence of this. The same thing with Blasey Ford and Kavanaugh, although that one lacks any credibility. So much so they had to keep calling it a credible. What do they call it? A credible accusation or something?
Yeah.
Credibly accused. And it was like, you're saying that because it's not. Like you're saying it over and over again because the people who listen to you and follow you are dumb as a box of rocks.
Right, right.
And you need them to repeat it. Because there's nothing credible about a lady 30 years later lying about everything and then accusing some like Boy Scout of being a gang rapist.
Yeah, bringing absolutely zero evidence, and everyone in his life was like, "Oh, he's a great guy at that time." Like, I don't know what
She was
you're
like,
talking about.
and then that other lady was like, he would line up outside of rooms and the men would all gangbang women. And it's like, bro, if that happened, it would be like the cover of a newspaper. It'd be the biggest scandal in the college's history.
For sure.
Never happened.
For sure.
The reason that presidents tend to pardon past presidents when they get out of office is because you want to avoid this kicking the ball. Like what'll happen is if Trump really gets persecuted and arrested, then when Biden gets out of office and another administration comes in, they very likely will arrest Biden for the same kind of crap. And then you'll have a cycle of arrests and political persecution, which devolves into anarchy and a loss of government.
Ford pardoned Nixon, right? To
Yeah.
end the long national nightmare. And as a way to try to bridge the gap and all the division and chaos that was going on in the country. And I don't think that's something that would happen in the current political climate. Where like Biden's going to pardon anybody. I don't know if Trump's going to pardon anybody.
He might, because
President-wise.
we talked about this before. But the first thing I'll say, Ian, is Trump is being persecuted. If he's prosecuted, it's something entirely different. They've been persecuting Trump for a long time, just coming after him for anything, for any reason, because they hate him, because they're a zombie cult. There you go.
Well, also, I think it's important to kind of explain what's going on here with the district attorney, right? They've looked into this, quote, hush money multiple times. This is, I believe, the third go at this. Every other time from much higher courts, they're saying, okay, well, there's not really enough to charge Trump for anything here. Now we have a very, very progressive Soros DA in Manhattan that's just saying, okay, well, yeah, we'll give it a shot. I'm sure if I get him in front of or if I present this in front of a grand jury, we got a good shot at it.
Get him subpoenaed and force him in a criminal trial to testify, and we'll get him on something.
Right. But this
accuse him of perjury or something.
For this DA, he has a record of downgrading charges. They're not prosecuting, what is it, prostitution right now. They're not prosecuting for resisting arrest or any of that going on. He's a very progressive DA that is super soft on crime, but for this, he's going as hard as possible on a quote crime that, if it were to be the case, it would be a 6-year-old misdemeanor.
But I think Biden might actually pardon Trump. Well,
For the optics?
let me clarify. These are state charges. Biden cannot pardon Trump for state charges. True. But I think in the event of if there was a federal case, Biden does have a good incentive to pardon Trump for the optics of, we don't play the games that Donald Trump does. Right. When he says, I am instructing the DOJ to cease this activity. We're a nation of law and order, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, he might play we're a nation of law and order, therefore he must be charged. But I think there's a possibility in a federal event that Biden would be like, I'm the bigger man, look at me.
I think there's a lot of people who would reject that, who like Biden and who hate Trump so much that if he were to pardon Trump, they would see that as a weak thing for their side.
This is a group of people that don't care what
They're
it is.
bloodthirsty.
They want to see him behind bars.
Are zombies bloodthirsty, right? Kind of.
Yes.
But I don't know if you call them bloodthirsty, right?
They might not know they are because they're brainless, is what you're
Right.
saying, but they are after blood, regardless.
It's an interesting question. Like, vampires are bloodthirsty, quite literally, right? And so when we refer to someone as a vampire, it's like a corporate CEO who's like, maybe they're running a big drug company that's getting guaranteed contracts to push some kind of experimental drug in the population. We'd call that person a vampire as like an insult.
Right.
A zombie, I don't know if you'd call bloodthirsty. You just call, like, there's no brain there to have that. It's just chaos and destruction.
Yeah.
So we just call them zombies.
Right.
But zombies
But they can
don't
still
need
vote.
to eat. I don't think they can just stand there for like 1,000
It depends
years.
which zombie universe you're in.
Yeah, which
technically.
you're watching.
Are these the running zombies? Which kind of zombie do we got here? They're the voting zombies for sure. But I don't know.
What we need to do is you got to starve the zombies out by turning off all social media for like a month, and then just watch them all spin around confused, not knowing who they're supposed to pretend to be. I think it'd be fun.
Is it irreversible damage though? I don't know if turning it off for a month will even fix it.
No,
at this
you
point.
Like a month later, there's just people standing in the middle of the street. Their eyes are white and they're just like not moving. And it's like, well, there's nothing there anymore.
It's like when Adam and Eve realized they were human for the first time and that they were naked in a garden. That
Felt
is
shame.
what would happen to the zombies. They'd be like,
Yeah.
"You're you and I'm me."
They're realizing that they can like think critically by themselves without being told what to do. I will say, I think from my personal experience, I think that the left is off the rails enough right now to where they're just bloodthirsty when it comes to Donald Trump. They don't care what the consequences are of locking him up for something that's completely absurd. It's obviously political persecution, right? It's obviously political persecution, but I don't think they care at all. And I don't even think that they care. Like, I don't think they're thinking far enough ahead to even see this being a major help to Donald Trump in his campaign. He's already raising money, using this to raise money right now. This is going to be the biggest thing for his campaign.
Oh, yeah.
If you think that the energy behind Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 was big, this is what we're seeing right now, and the U.S. that we're living in today, and what we're seeing right now with this political persecution. This is 10 times worse than when he was elected.
Let me play this Trump truth. Donald Trump posted this today at 3:07, effectively accusing Alvin Bragg of, I guess, abusing a woman. We'll put it that way. Let's play the ad for you.
George Soros-funded Democrat Alvin Bragg is known as the worst DA in the country. His soft-on-crime policies have unleashed violent criminals on innocent citizens and turned New York City into a hellscape of crime, drugs, and chaos. However, Alvin Bragg's crimes against the people of New York may just be the tip of the iceberg. Before Bragg's election, it was revealed that Soros cut off $500,000 in funds to Bragg's campaign. It was reported that there were disturbing allegations leveled against Bragg by an unnamed woman. There was no investigation into the victim's charges by the Manhattan DA's office, and Alvin Bragg is yet to be charged.
I'm the only thing standing between the American dream and total anarchy, madness, and chaos, and that's what it is. I'm representing you. I'm just here. Always remember, they are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
So he's already using this to campaign, right? But I hate to do it, but he's making me defend Alvin Bragg. All right, here's the issue, right? Alvin Bragg was not formally accused by anybody who we know. An unnamed woman is the story, and there were no charges. What does that say? It says he didn't do anything. That's it. If some like unnamed anonymous woman accused him of doing something and there were no charges, am I going to be like, oh man, I gotta go for that? That Donald Trump's a bad guy. No, I'm not playing that game. I don't like Bragg. I don't like Soros-funded DAs. I think they're awful. I think this guy's destroying New York City.
Well, I think they have enough ammunition against him to not even bring that up. I think it just takes away from how bad he is as a DA. And by the way, probably the worst DA in the country is Philly's. I forgot the name of the Philly person, but
Philadelphia is a wasteland.
A wasteland.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Those videos are
But
so sad.
but I think that they have more than enough ammunition on Bragg to just completely ignore all those distractions right there. I think that takes away from how bad of a job he's already doing as district attorney.
Is this Larry Krasner, Philadelphia DA?
Yeah, that's another that's like a top Soros one, I believe.
Okay.
Soros is a vampire. Yeah, I think a good analogy for that guy. He's an evil MF.
Evil?
Oh, guys,
Well,
he's the evil.
When he's the definition of evil.
I mean, he is like as evil as they come.
He thinks he's good. That's what's weird about it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I don't think he
always
thinks
do.
he's good. Look,
Neutral?
No, there are a lot of people that I think they think they're good, and there are a lot of people that will play the philosophical game of like, there's no such thing as good or evil, there's the actions, blah blah blah. I don't care. Like, I get it. Everybody thinks it's a hero of their own story, but George Soros is just an evil guy.
He spends tens of millions of dollars electing district attorneys in the most liberal district attorneys in the United States that are letting criminals back on the streets.
Liberal is the incorrect word.
Leftists. Yeah, sorry. You're right about that.
But
they're not liberal at all.
But I don't think leftist is either. He's funding Joker acolytes. He's funding. Someone actually commented in one of my earlier segments. I said, what these DAs are doing is like the Joker releasing all of the bad guys from Arkham Asylum. Someone mentioned Bane did that. Bane in Batman releases all of the criminals into the city. I think that was the movie, though. Pretty sure it's the Joker that breaks everybody out of Arkham Asylum in the comics. Either way, comic book villainy. These Soros DAs are comic book villains who are unleashing crime into all of these cities. It's like Lex Luthor level stuff.
Who was
using
in charge?
positions of power.
Who was in charge of releasing all the prisoners from prisons when COVID started with lockdowns? When they were telling you go to jail for breaking lockdown.
They were literally all doing it. They were doing it in California too.
Yeah, that's when I started feeling like America had turned into Arkham. When everyone's just getting told they can leave the prisons, but then if you don't mask up or do whatever, they will arrest you and put you in jail.
They want you to wear a mask in a store now.
The salon
I don't know if it's now. Now they're kind of realizing how
the salon
insane it
owner
is.
in Texas who got arrested, and I think it was Abbott or someone pointed out, you're arresting this woman because she opened her salon while releasing violent criminals because of COVID policies. What is going on?
The lady who was selling stuff on Facebook Live.
And they came to her store.
They came and got her.
Well, the most shocking thing too is a lot of people aren't capable of like processing the whole job of a district attorney. So it's kind of this like invisible enemy within cities. What happens is they let all these bad guys out, these violent criminals back on the street. They commit crimes. Crime rates skyrocket. And then it gives Democrats another boogeyman that's not the district attorney. They focus on guns and taking away more gun rights. They leverage those high crime statistics to strip more of your rights away instead of focusing on the just garbage district attorneys in these cities.
I was regarding this video that Trump put out. We just listened to. I don't like that he's going at that he does the personality like, oh, I got attacked, I'm gonna attack the guy that attacked me. I want to do personal attacks. And also he sounded tired, man. I just listened to this Biden video of him vetoing the Senate, the congressional bill that they're trying to pass, and Biden sounds like this when he's talking. Like he's so old, withered, and tired, and now Trump sounds just tired. These guys, we need new blood. This is just is so silly.
Trump hasn't looked the same in a while.
What is he? Is he 76 right now, Trump?
I think so.
Yes, I agree. But I think Trump's got to finish that character arc. He's got to finish what he came here to do.
He's 76.
He's the front runner for a reason. The story is not over yet. We are on, we're nearing the final chapters, but we are still not at the end of the book. We've still got a good one-third left.
I hope so, because I voted for him for 2020, but the pardoning thing was one of the things that really bothered me. Just the way he went out with the pardoning, who he pardoned, who he didn't pardon.
To do Julian Assange, I know that was a really
that was a pretty weak move.
He didn't pardon the J6ers.
Right.
He could have got those guys out of prison.
Right.
And I'm not talking like if someone committed a violent crime, charge, arrest them. That's fine.
Yeah.
But some of these people were sitting in for 6 months or even years. Some people are still there
Some in
for
solitary.
trespassing
Right.
and misdemeanors.
I have actually a guy that I know. He went in there, just reporter. He's been casual reporter, basically a registered Democrat, I think his whole life. Not a hardcore political guy either. Just kind of standard, California guy, Democrat. And he went in there with a DSLR camera around his neck, nonviolent crime, going to prison for 4 years.
Wait, what?
Going to prison for 4 years. His problem was he was an independent journalist and photo journalist, and I don't believe he had like a totally legit press pass. But yeah, I mean, you're talking at worst, you're talking what is that, a trespassing charge? But what they do with these people, they're making an example out of them, and they're pinning them with obstruction of an official proceeding and getting them with these insane charges that, like, if you look at this guy for 1 second, you're like, he's not obstructing anything. Literally went in there with a camera to go document what was happening on January 6th.
Yeah, well,
went to prison for
there
4
was
years.
that John Sullivan guy, whatever
Yes,
his name was.
exactly what I was thinking.
He was in there filming and documenting, and they got him as well.
And he was instigating on some of those videos.
He was.
saying,
yeah.
didn't he break a window or something?
He was instigating in a lot of those
Cheering
videos.
and he
him on.
sold that footage to a
He's-
lot of corporate media places.
CNN.
And was on those places as like a talking head, and then it came out that he may be a bad actor. No one knows. They said he was Antifa, maybe.
Well, and then
all these different things.
Yeah, he was
He was
a
Antifa.
radical. Yeah,
yeah,
he was.
I believe he was, but they will say he wasn't.
Can you do a thing where if you're going to pardon, because I think there's a lot of confusion of who did what, so rather than be like, I'm going to pardon these 40% of these people, because you still don't know who did what, can you say, I'm going to pardon every instance of this crime between the hours of 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. in this place, and then later when we find out who was involved in that particular, I'm going to pardon all the trespassing violations. So then later as it comes out, like who did what, every time a trespassing violation comes out, it gets tossed. Is that a potential way to pardon crimes?
I have no idea. All that matters is
They're making an example out of these
Trump
people.
had a couple weeks left, and he could have been like, "Nope, get him out."
Yeah.
He's
Just
like,
what
not
a
playing that
drop
game.
of the ball for
Well,
leadership. I agree with you.
I would say I look at these J6ers the same way I look at Alex Jones and a few of the others when it came to testing the waters with censorship in America. I really look at these J6ers as testing the waters when it came to political persecution in the United States. And look what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Look how far they're about to go. Like actually going after Donald Trump for some BS,
You made a
charge.
good point earlier before we were recording about how this is like the image of this will be so explosive, just the perp walk.
Oh, they're literally
And how
doing it just for that.
And it'll be for both sides, that image.
Yeah. Yep.
They're going to use it on the left as like, look at this, we've destroyed this monster, this boogeyman we've created on corporate media. And then the Trump side will be like, we're going to put it on shirts and sell it.
Yeah, we got to do Nelson Mandela, basically.
I don't see
Yeah.
a way that it doesn't backfire. I see this as being, you don't want to be like indicted. That's awful. But I see it
I
as being
think
amazing for Trump's campaign
it's
and
gonna-
Trump, honestly.
It's going to be like that meme of Kyle Rittenhouse and Greta Thunberg, where it says, compare, our 17-year-old with their 17-year-old tells you everything you need to know. And the left and the right share the meme in the exact same ways.
Right.
To the left, they're like, wow, Greta Thunberg, ew, Kyle. And the right's like, ew, Greta, wow, Kyle. But it's the same image. It exemplifies what Scott Adams was saying about the same screen with two different movies on it. It's nuts.
Yes.
So
Not
we're
as
going to see a
multiple
photo
movies.
of Trump being arrested, and the left is going to share it and be like, "Oh, this proves it," and the right's going to share it like, "Oh, this proves it."
Yeah, it sounds like
I guess
sounds like an NFT waiting to be made. doesn't it?
Right. And I guess to clarify what I just said, fantastic for Trump when it comes to raising money, to getting his base, re-energized. Awful for the country.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yes,
Terrible.
because if you're a Democrat, amazing for law and order and for our democracy, and if you're a Trump supporter Republican, it's amazing for his campaign and chance for re-election. And then all it's doing is pushing everybody into hyper-tribalization.
Man, when I was like 10, I learned about Nelson Mandela. It was like in the late 80s. And he was in jail or just got let out of jail. And I asked my dad, like, why was he in jail? And he was a political prisoner. And I was like, what does that mean? What did he do wrong? And he's like, no, it just means that the government didn't like him. And I was like 10 or 11 when I learned that they could do that. I was like, what? They can just put you in jail if they don't like?
Well,
Imagine being born in any other part of the world or at any other time. Yeah, America.
Yeah, where you go out and say, I don't like that guy, and they cut your head off on the street and be like, he talked crap about the governor. You're not allowed to do that. Like, we're lucky that we can protect ourselves.
We're so lucky, and I don't think we get it for very long. To be honest with you, I think we're slipping when it comes to that polite society, that moral society that holds on to that amazing life that we've grown up with. I think we're slipping away from that for sure.
Let's jump to the story from Politico. DeSantis says he won't get involved with Trump's potential indictment in any way. Right now on Twitter, it's heating up. I'm seeing, Ben Shapiro. He's quote tweeting Matt Walsh. Internal rift at the Daily Wire over whether or not Ron DeSantis could, should, or would extradite Donald Trump. Now, it seems, based on questions asked to DeSantis himself, he's not going to get involved in the indictment in any way, which sounds like he's saying outright, I will not extradite Donald Trump from Mar-a-Lago to New York. But what happens to a country when a state indicts a former president for the first time in history, who's also the current front runner? Then The state where he is says, I am not going to get involved. He's not getting extradited. What do?
Send in the FBI to go extradite him.
Why would the FBI do it?
I don't know.
I read somewhere that the Secret Service is supposed to be the one in charge of this. Like they're sent out to arrest. Is that
so?
True?
The Secret Service will act upon a state warrant? That doesn't seem to make sense to me.
No, none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think if you want to say we're living in a simulation in the computer type way, that it feels like AI is writing all of this.
Yeah, we're
Chat GPI is writing all of this.
Trump has 6
insane.
fingers.
We're trying something new.
This
here.
is crazy.
This is new. I looked into it, and a lot of times, like the only time that maybe a governor won't give someone over might be like for death penalty, let's say, and one state believes in it, another state doesn't. Never for really something like this, obviously, where it's a felony if guilty, or more likely, this is more of a misdemeanor, but they're going after a felony. But it also gets just wrapped up in the courts within the state. The problem is if DeSantis says he won't get involved and he commits to that, and this is actually happening, that he will absolutely not become president of the United States whenever he wants that base to support him, that Trump base. He needs that Trump base.
It's not just about the Trump base. It would be an utmost sign of weakness and a failure of leadership if he allows Trump to be arrested.
Also, within his speech that he's talking about, not getting involved, he's saying that it's political persecution. Okay, so if you're saying it and you're admitting to it, but you're also at the same time saying you're not going to do anything about it, are you
This
serious?
is how you
be a
keep-
leader, like you're saying.
Exactly.
This is how you keep
So
supporters
it's-
happy, like Jeb Bush. You know,
right.
Jeb Bush would like this rhetoric from DeSantis.
Yes.
That's why he
It's-
has Jeb Bush in his corner.
It's not even.
For sure.
It's already bad enough. DeSantis wasn't strong enough in his statement. Saying I'm not going to get involved in any way is already bad enough. If he actually lets Trump be extradited, so here's what needs to happen. DeSantis, if he wants to prove he's presidential, he says Donald Trump. He needs to come out and say Donald Trump will not be extradited from this state under my watch for a political persecution. He is the front runner for the Republican Party's 2024 presidential run. He is a former president, and everyone can see these charges are political. If you make any attempt to come into my state, I will use the full force of the executive branch to stop you. That is presidential.
Yeah, and
but he's not doing that. He goes, I'm not going to get involved.
Yeah, and a lot of people say like, oh, well, Trump's been taking jabs at him. I totally understand that. I totally get it. But if you do if you are looking to run for president, either 2024 or the session after, if you want to be a leader, lead, like what you're saying. I mean, lead the way. Everyone's people are saying, oh, well, he's just a governor for Florida. What other governors are saying anything? Well, nobody's a governor that's in the position that DeSantis is in.
What are they so scared of? What is everyone so scared of? Ask yourself this question right now, and I mean this with the utmost sincerity. What are you scared of? Why didn't you jump out of that plane when you went skydiving the first time? When you were there with your friends and they opened the door and then you changed your mind at the last minute and rode the plane back down and said, I just couldn't do it. Why didn't you go down that double black diamond with your friends when they went skiing? What are you scared of? Now, in those circumstances, I get it. What if my parachute fails? What if I go too fast, I crash, I break my bones? That I get. For Ron DeSantis, for a political position, what are you so scared of? What is anyone scared of when it comes to standing up? Well, what if some bad thing happens? Bad things are already happening. They're talking about indicting a former president for the first time on what we know is complete BS charges, well past the statute of limitations, to try and stop him in any way they can from being president because he's winning. What does Ron DeSantis fear by just getting on camera, looking straight into it and saying, Alvin Bragg, go fuck yourself? What is he so scared of? Yep. I'm sorry. I'm just frustrated because I am absolutely sick in every capacity. So much of everyone being scared of nebulous political consequences. I certainly don't give a shit. And I'm thinking to myself, the last thing I'd ever want to do is be in political office. But the more I see people, even like DeSantis, refuse to say to the camera and the press, y'all can go fuck yourselves, then I'm just like, we need someone who's going to do it. Now I really do get why Trump won in 2016. Now I really do get why he gained 12 million voters. And now I totally understand why so many more people wear his hats, fly his flag, because it's about time somebody just said, I don't care. Fuck you, I'm doing it.
I think
now you got me swearing.
It's because DeSantis is trying to pander to like the old school politics, and he's trying to be the Trump but anti-Trump figure. But we're in a post-Trump, post-COVID world where everything's upside down, everything's insane and chaotic. But he's like this very politically vague statement is pre-COVID, pre-Trump, and it's not going to go anywhere. I
Yeah,
don't know who's
right.
trying to keep happy with that kind of stuff.
And he's doing a fantastic job within his state. I mean, he really is. But we're
For
talking
sure.
about the fall of the nation that's at risk here. We're talking about political persecution. I mean, hell, how many months ago did the Biden administration literally create a ministry of frickin' truth?
Yeah, like 8 months ago.
Things are 10 times worse now. You need to buckle up. You need to lead because we're trying to save the country from literally becoming an all-out banana republic.
It's also, we have data we didn't have before. We understand ESG and the military-industrial complex and the world, the new world order that the Swiss banks, the World Economic Forum is trying to create. We understand how the CCP is influencing social governance. Like, we know, so we see what we want to avoid. And I think that it gives us an opportunity to create the world in the American image with like decentralized autonomy and local governance and property rights and gun rights and speech rights and things like that. If we do nothing and bicker, they're going to create some autocracy where you get kicked off the internet, you get your bank stripped away because you said daddy wrong. Like,
That's what they're scared of.
Yeah.
And I think about it like the reason Ron DeSantis gave the answer he gave, which was like, okay, a lot of people were cheering for it. Some people rolled their eyes. I don't think it was strong enough. Better than him saying, well, if they want to arrest him, they're going to have to extradite him, and I guess that'll happen. But it wasn't a very strong statement. You know what he's worried about? He's worried about his polling numbers. He's worried about when he runs for the president, eventually announcing and then resigning or whatever as he does. He's worried that it's going to look bad to a certain voter base. Suburban women are getting angry and say, oh, he's so aggressive and abusive. And it's just like, look, man, he doesn't need to literally come out and say, go F yourself to Alvin Bragg. It was not bad that it was really good, actually. He ragged on the Soros DA, says they're evil people, destroying things. I give him total respect for that because that is good.
That was the best part of the speech.
I'm just saying, like, he needs to come out and just outright say, there will not be an extradition of Donald Trump while I am governor of Florida. Mark my words. You will. And then, you know what I'd love to see? You want to know what really make him presidential? If when Secret Service, whoever, does show up to Mar-a-Lago, Ron DeSantis himself stands in front of the door and says, make me. You'll have to move me physically. The governor of this state. Make that happen. I dare you.
That'd be gangster.
Then people are going to be like, damn.
Yeah.
That would be
But he's not going to do it.
a real play.
And I like DeSantis. He's doing a great job in
yeah,
Florida.
Sure, yeah.
when he
But
says,
like, I got to be honest, even Trump wouldn't do something like that.
yeah, he said he's not going to get involved, quotes, or whatever. So how does this work, extradition? Does it go through the governor where the governor has to say yes or no, or does it happen completely separate of the governor? Only the governor can step in and stop it.
To the best of my understanding, it's not necessarily up to the governor. Obviously, they can come out and be the face of the position of the state. But I believe it has to do with the courts within the state,
Then
not
that-
so much like the government. The governor just says yes or no, and that's what it is.
Then
I
that
don't believe it's that
indicates
simple.
he's going to let him get extradited and he's not going to step in to stop it. Because if it's his job to do it and he says I'm not getting involved, that indicates he's not going to do it. But if his job is all he can do really is stop it from happening, he says not get involved, then he's not going to stop it from happening.
Even if he was just like politically posturing and making it be known, even if he didn't have control, even if he said something like what Tim's saying, that would help. But what he's doing right now is the exact opposite.
You know who would do exactly what I just said?
Carrie Lake.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking
Carrie
that
Lake,
too.
100%.
She totally
100%.
100%.
And you knew it. You said it right away. No questions. If Carrie Lake, if this was happening in her state, she would say, you will have to physically remove me and I will stand in your way with my own body to stop you from making this arrest. She would do it.
She's great, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, when I was with her in Phoenix, I remember thinking, as I was talking to her, like, this lady is actual counterculture. This mom in her nice dress, like, that's counterculture because she was badass. And you could tell everything she says, she means that stuff.
You spent a lot of time with her. Did you interview her?
No, it wasn't a lot of time, but I guess it was a few days of me in court with her. And then I interviewed her individually, like, elsewhere. And yeah, I thought she was incredible. Incredible.
Dude, she's one of the most interesting and most effective potential governors out there when it comes to how she can handle the media. There's probably no one better than her.
I agree. And with everything that happened with the election, with the misprinted ballots and all of that stuff and the ongoing lawsuits, we'll see where it ends up. But after seeing everything that's happened so far and this conversation we're having right now, I actually think if Donald Trump said she's going to be the VP, I'd say absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And before I was worried, like, well, she worked in media, then she ran for office for I think the first time, right?
I think so.
And then she doesn't get the office. So what's the political experience of doing it? Now, at this point, I'm kind of like, I don't care about political. I want the opposite of political experience. I want the media experience,
For sure.
and I want the tenacity and the bravery.
So when I wrote that story, and I'm sitting in court, I think it was the first day for her trial, and I'm sitting next to this guy I ended up ragging on at the end of that story, the corporate NBC type guy, who's just blatantly misinterpreting the reality around him. She walks in, sees him immediately, and looks at him and goes, "Oh, this guy writes fantasy." I was like, yes. It was amazing.
Yep.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, she's incredible.
I wonder, if some people have speculated it might be Carrie Lake for VP. What do
It
you
would
guys
make
think?
sense. I think that would make sense.
Or Vivek Ramaswamy at this point. He is that thrilling me because the same thing.
He's great.
He's being vocal and great.
People are
And smart.
Yeah,
Super
people
smart.
are for some reason questioning him. I mean, I guess question everyone. That's great, but he's been nailing it. Every time he opens his mouth, he's incredibly intelligent. He's incredibly successful. He's
solution oriented. I like that.
right.
One of the best assets the GOP has right now. He's not going to be president, with all due respect. But what he's doing with the conversation is he's bringing up ESG and the woke garbage, which needs to happen, and it's being brought to the front and center.
He's
this
really
is going to Donald Trump will I think right now, based on all the factors, which is going to change in a year and a half. But if the election was held today, I think Donald Trump would win. But the conversation and the priorities of that administration would be shifted by Vivek.
You already see it being shifted. Vivek was explicit when he came on IRL when we were in at Turning Point that what we need to do is reposition our assets, our investment assets, onto a different index that's not ESG sensitive. So put it in local, just different indexes, create and use different indexes. And it's the same thing that that Biden just vetoed is this bill to get ESG out of our investments because they're not profitable necessarily. They go for like social crap over profit.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that DeSantis is refusing to allow in his state. And there's a coalition of other states that are refusing ESG.
West Virginia.
Yep. And Virginia.
West Virginia was doing it, I think, first.
It's really inspiring. And
Is it
Vivek's been on the ball
Riley
the entire
Moore?
time.
Did I get his name right?
Yeah, he was on the
Name
ball. He might have been the first somewhat major Republican that was speaking out against Trump's potential indictment.
And calling out other
other Republicans
for not doing
that
it.
weren't speaking about it. He was the first. He literally, if you watch his videos, he just grabs his cell phone.
Yeah.
He did it right away.
Yeah, I
Because
appreciate
he
that a
knew
lot.
what he needed to do. He knew what the answer was. And he didn't waste a second for a big speech or anything like that. He jumped straight to it, took it straight to Twitter.
And that's the kind of off the cuff stuff.
Yeah.
Strong, attitude.
He would be a
stuff
great VP.
that we liked about Trump back then. That I don't feel Trump has now. But I think being surrounded by people like Kerry or Vivek would be very, very good for his cabinet.
I think Vivek has a vision, so it's easy to go off the cuff because he doesn't have to worry about saying the wrong thing because everything he already knows what needs to be said to create the vision. I like that guy.
Yeah.
I've told this story before about, well, I'll put it this way. There's that South Park joke when the BP oil spill happened. And the guy's like, we're sorry. And then he's laying in the naked, his underwear like, we're sorry.
It's too good.
But that exemplifies everything about the media, the establishment, and the politicians that I hate, and I think many Trump supporters despise. Every response, every action is canned, predictable garbage. You know what they're going to say before they say it because they have to say the lowest common denominator garbage talking point instead of just telling you the truth. And Donald Trump went up on stage and said Rosie O'Donnell was a fat pig. And people were like, this guy's telling it like it is. Yep. Donald Trump went before the press and said, we're selling a bunch of weapons to Saudi Arabia. It's great, so good for our economy. And that's important for working class people to hear. This is what presidents do. Finally, you have a guy who's like, screw off. Now, here's the thing. Trump, I think, is the herald of this personality, not the world ruler himself, because everybody knows Donald means world ruler and Trump means the heralding sound. I think he comes before something else. I think he's got to finish his arc, but there needs to be somebody, it might be Kerry Lake, who has the tenacity of Trump, but I don't know, the decorum, I suppose.
It's you.
No.
But the challenge is going to be to not go psycho.
Not me. I'm saying that you take somebody like Donald Trump, who's willing to tell the media to screw off and F themselves, who's willing to say on stage that Rosie O'Donnell's a fat pig. I'm not saying it's a nice thing to do. I'm saying he was accused and he goes, only Rosie O'Donnell, and everybody laughs. Take that brute honesty, but add in that more, the decorum, I suppose, and you have the leader.
Yeah.
That might be Kerry Lake. We may be talking about DeSantis prematurely because as much as Kerry Lake is not the governor, she's the only person I can think of who would actually look into the camera and tell Bragg to F off. in the proper political way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I'm not going to get involved, she'd say, I will physically bar him from entering my state. You know what I mean?
Yeah. DeSantis is in a tricky spot, though, because he can't run for governor again. So, you could use that momentum to run for president. That's why everyone's talking about DeSantis. Yeah. That's why, there's internal memos about like him or people talking on the inside saying that he's planning on running for president. Because now's his time, right? But I think what Tim's getting to is also like giving Trump that extra shot. You have a guy that has a second term and that's it. He is going to go all out. There's no worry or thought about running again. There's no, if I do this now, I won't be electable for next election. That's not a concern. He can go all out.
MAGA unleashed.
Trump MAGA unleashed.
Eyes glowing, Super Saiyan.
I'm into that. I just hope he makes up for a lot of the bad stuff I really didn't like at the end of the term. Not just the pardonings, but I mean,
he's not
perfect.
Lockdowns.
So he kept Fauci in power. He did warp speed. And I loved a lot of the stuff he did prior to that, but those things almost outweigh the good.
For all the nerds, he's Proto Man, and we need Mega Man. Right? Anybody get that reference?
Yeah. I don't know Proto Man. I know Mega Man.
Proto Man was Dr.
merch.
Light's first creation.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I think he turned and went to work for Dr. Wiley or something like that.
But I would blame some of that, not all of it. I think Trump was very good at like surrounding himself with people that would consult around him that were just awful at their jobs too.
Yeah.
Trump also made a handful of decisions on his own that were bad, but I think also there were some things that they were making the move to make it more electable for the next election. Like you can't go too extreme.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. A lot of people just say, do it, go for it.
Right.
But you can also totally botch your ability to get reelected. And so a lot of them keep that in mind when they're trying to run for a second term is like, you can't, he had a hell of a first term, but like you can't go unleashed
Right.
Your first term because you'll shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. And with the lockdowns, I mean, he helped give them to us, but he also did then, we had this debate about states' rights again, about, which state can lock down, which can't, which became beautiful for DeSantis. These are good things to be arguing, but, having Fauci around to me is a crime.
Yeah, what a mischaracterization.
He should have been replaced immediately.
And have that kind of faith.
For all the years he's been there and all the things he's done over the decades in power, he should not have been there for this. And he should have been taken out immediately. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, remove him
should
from
have been
office.
fired. Yeah. I mean, he was doing what they want. I think
he was doing what he wanted. I think Fauci.
Fauci?
Yes. Fauci
in the medical industrial complex. He was working for that.
Yes.
I think that the United States, the people, and probably the world is at a point where the veil is becoming lifted, like the liberal economic order is turning into the new world order. And now it's been like, head down, don't say anything about it. You have all these governors like, I just don't want to rock the boat. Just keep pushing forward until it's done, until I get to retire or whatever. But it's like, I think we got to be honest about how the transition is going to happen now for the people of the United States. I think a leader that does that is invigorating and can build the trust of the American people and provide like a roadmap forward. If there's no roadmap, man, people are just going to start smashing into each other.
I don't know if we can have a roadmap because we exist in different dimensions. Like we were saying earlier with the two screens or two movies on one screen.
The same meme.
Like, so we don't exist together anymore. So I don't know how you bring us back.
Let me see if I can pull this meme up, actually.
Honestly, I love the reference, like calling it the Matrix and people sitting on the outside of the Matrix looking in, and then there's the people in the Matrix that like will tell you, I hear all the time when I'm talking to people on the street, like New York Times, that is objective news. That's what it is. Okay. You're on the outside. It's not liberal. Like they are not aware of any biases that they have at all. What they believe is just the truth, and you're the exception.
Yep. This is the meme. It says, when you are looking for the basic difference between the left and the right, look to the young. Our 17-year-old versus their 17-year-old. And this meme is shared by the left and the right in the exact same way to make the exact same point.
I just want to make an argument real quick about the simulation. If you guys remember, they have the same birthday too.
Yeah. Was it
They have
January
the
17th?
same birthday.
And Greta have the same birthday.
Same year.
We talked about that, I think, when he was on the show.
With Rittenhouse.
That's right.
Luke encouraged him to get married.
This is crazy.
Crazy.
Well,
She's a foreign, leftist, climate change, global elite, and he is a working class, suburban/rural American kid.
But you're in that dimension.
Insane.
In the other dimension, they flip it almost and see her as the working class, right?
No. Well,
I think they
right.
do. I think they see her as like this more blue collar, like activist, and they see him as like this privileged elitist.
Honestly, I think one of them obviously stands for liberty. And they are incredibly opposed to that. Everything that image stands for, they're incredibly opposed to. When it comes to like the liberal elite and control and passing more government regulation, when it comes to climate change and everything like that, that agenda is the most attractive thing to them, because that agenda to them is safety. It's that like government controlled safe world that you live in, whereas the other one's a little bit more risky, but there's more liberty.
I can sense as they keep advancing carbon capture technology now, like oil companies are withdrawing the carbon from the air and storing it underground. They're learning how to turn it into graphene for building. It's the momentum of the climate change thing is fizzling. I can sense it on the internet. Like, it's just not exciting to complain about the future of carbon when people know you can easily, or at least actively pull it out. Like, it's becoming obvious that the next problem is going to be taking too much carbon out of the air.
That's really interesting that you're saying that. I'm not even familiar with that. But technology every single year.
It's like the
just
poop in New York.
Getting better and better.
They were concerned about horse crap on the streets of New York, and then the car got invented. So, do you guys know about 15-minute cities?
Sort of. I've heard
this idea that in the future everybody will live within 15 minutes of whatever they need. Right. You'll never need to really go anywhere. You'll have whatever you want. There's this really funny video I just saw. Someone sent it to me. And it's a guy explaining 15-minute cities. And he says, I want to explain to you the concept of the 15-minute city. And then he walks up to this shed thing and opens it, and there's chickens standing there. And he goes, these are its citizens. Inside their 15-minute city, they have everything they could ever need. Then they walk inside, and he goes, there is food and water readily available. Now, they can leave whenever they want, but they don't want to because it's scary and it's dangerous outside. And why? Inside here, they own nothing, but they're happy. And he says, and then he walks into the room and he's like, this is where they produce things that I can take for free. And then he picks the eggs up and he puts them in his sweater and he's like, here's a couple. And he's like, see, in the 15-minute city, you will own nothing. You will be happy. You'll be provided for. And then we can take everything from you. And
You're
I'm like,
product.
It really is a great video explaining what their plan is. How these city planners, how the Davos group types want to run the show. Treating us like chickens, making us do the work that they can take, and keeping you locked in a chicken coop.
They want you living and dying on an assembly line. You know, that's it.
As you guys were saying that, I was like, well, they don't want him doing that. They want like a thinking class of people to join them, basically. Like, do you guys think about the plebs and the elites? Like, do you think there's a class differential? The Romans would say it's the plebs. Was it like a nutrition issue? Like, all these people, they're from people that didn't have nutrition for generations. They've been bred to be stupid workers. And then the elite class have all the good food. They can think. They can write the law.
Yeah, it's the Morlocks and the which ones? I don't know. Was it Morlocks?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Time Machine or something.
Oh, but there's definitely a class issue in this country.
What was the intelligent ones?
I'm looking at Morlocks, fictional species.
In the
the antagonists are the Morlocks.
He goes to the future where humans have evolved into two different species. One's really dumb and one's really smart.
This is from the Time Machine.
Yeah.
Oh, LOI?
LOI, that's what it is. LOI or something?
Yeah, LOI.
So take a look at this article from the Daily Mail. If there's a civil war, I'm fighting. Trump loyalists face off with staunch liberals outside former president's NYC tower on the eve of his rumored arrest. I saw this article and I thought it was really funny considering the context. Because, like, I appreciate the protesters, right? But I was thinking about it and, like, I see this picture of this dude. I don't know who he is. Dion Sinney, 54, founder of TrumpSwag.com, eating that cheeseburger and the French fries. And I'm like... He doesn't look like he's out of shape or anything. I'm just like, think about what this civil war is going to look like. It's not going to, so like the Confederates had just, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a true Confederate uniform. Very basic. Union uniforms were like blue or whatever. It was all very basic, mass-produced stuff. But like a modern civil war is going to be weird as hell. There's going to be people wearing like Uniqlo turtlenecks and Antifa.
It'll be like Walmart versus Forever 21. Those are the outfits.
Well, I mean, worse than that, it's going to be like Hunger Games, capital city people with like, you know, half their head is shaved and the hair is spiked to the side and they've got weird body modifications and they're going to be waving gigantic multicolor flags of all different kinds so you can't discern who is on what side because all the flags are different. But all you know is that the flag doesn't have Trump on it. They're probably not on your side. Then you're going to have people waving Trump flags of all different types and it's like, it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, it'll be the they-them army against probably a pretty, they'd be pretty heavily armed. I would imagine the right wing would be. You know,
yeah,
a lot of people bring up like the military getting involved and whatnot. I would imagine if it were to actually go down, it's not like military versus you; it's military splits as well, same as the nation. military leaders that are more right-leaning and, believe in whatever they would believe in.
And people
side with that side.
Man, I think people really need to start reading about the Civil War, because I am by no means an expert in any way. But even just visiting Gettysburg, I'm like, there's so much I did not know. Like, for instance, I learned when I went to Gettysburg that one of the reasons the Confederates lost was because they were using muzzle-loaded rifles, but the Union had upgraded to breech-loading rifles. That means the Union breech loading is you crack the gun, kind of breaks in half on a hinge, like a shotgun. You ever see like Elmer Fudd load a shotgun? Breech load, you break it open, you put the shell in, you close it, you can fire. The Confederates were trying to muzzle load, and the Union soldiers were just firing, boom, real quickly. That was a technological advantage. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
They don't know what happened or why. Most people don't know the Confederates could have won the war in the first fight. I think the first Battle of Bull Run, they could have just walked into D.C. and won instantly. Yeah. And they decided not to. There's so much. But the important thing is, the reason I bring it up, how I think it was it Lee who was talking, they're all West Point guys. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, but I can't fight against my own state. I have no choice but to leave and go back home.
Right.
People don't get that.
Yep.
That you're going to have somebody who's going to be like, I grew up here. You are not going to send me to occupy my own street corner. Mm-hmm. Somebody who was born and raised in West Virginia, who's like now living in D.C., because it's only about an hour, 2-hour drive, depending on where you're at. I mean, if you're in central West Virginia, it could be 4 or 5 hours. But then they're like, okay, now we're going to have you go with this gun to your state. And they're going to be like, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That will happen.
Shelby Foote is a historian, someone I was looking at a lot reading when I was writing this book. And he said, he's from the South. He said something about the Union thought they were fighting to keep the Union together, and the South was fighting the Second American Revolution. Yep. But there were a lot of people who lived down there who didn't give a crap about the war at all. But if you came into their territory, they're going to fight you, which to the Union looks like you're a Confederate, but they're just defending their property because they see them as an invading force.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And in the South, they were like, there would be sons who saw the North as an invading force, and their fathers fought the British in the Revolution who saw the British as an invading force. Yeah. So it's like 2 generations in a row, basically, of fighting invading forces.
And that's crazy.
Super crazy.
Wow. It's wild.
I mean,
I haven't even checked out any of that stuff. Like, I haven't gone to any of those battlegrounds.
You need
or anything
to.
like that. I would love to.
Gettysburg is cool place. I mean, the whole city is basically a Civil War
Antietam's
museum.
close too.
Harper's Ferry is wild.
Yeah, Antietam's
obliterated.
We ride our bikes past Antietam like
Beautiful.
whenever we going up. We go up to what's that little town? Do you know which one it is?
Hagerstown.
No. There's a little bitty one.
Sharpsburg.
Yeah.
With the best ice cream in Maryland.
I know, man. For those that don't know, there's like this really famous. It's like $1 for this bowl of ice.
Giant
crazy.
Ice cream. Yeah. But Antietam's right there, and it's beautiful.
And they've put up all of these Civil War informational things everywhere you go. Yeah. We're really close to John Brown's raid headquarters in Harper's Ferry.
Yeah, John Brown's house is the only place I ever felt a Black Lives Matter flag should be. I was like, okay, that makes sense there.
The one in Ohio?
For John Brown, no, in Harper's Ferry.
I agree, because I think he would. But like,
he would like it. Of
John
course.
Brown, I think was a crazy person.
Well,
I think he had something right about slavery being bad.
Went about
obviously,
it in a different way.
Yeah, he went about it in a wrong way. But that's the problem I have with Antifa too.
Right.
Like, Antifa is like, hey, there's a bad thing happening in government. I'm like, yeah, I really agree about that. So why did you firebomb a black person's business?
Right.
And it's like, well, I don't. Like, dude, John Brown raids an armory, and none of the slaves wanted to fight with him. They were like, dude, what are you doing?
With all his sons.
Yeah. And it's just, not to mention, he just went and murdered people, and then there's Bleeding Kansas and all that stuff. A lot of people were like, dude, we agree with you, but this is not the way we want to go about doing it. Yep. I don't know. I don't think he was right, but there's a question of whether or not the people who were refusing to fight were right as well.
I believe he thought slavery was just going against God. And he had a calling by God, I believe.
He was right about
do
that.
It, right?
Dude, but he wasn't right about going and shooting people in the face.
The violence part is where I stopped too, is I obviously don't want violence.
Yeah, I think of that.
He was
like
hanged
abortion
for what he did.
clinics.
I think
and stuff.
the first person hanged by the federal government. Is that true? I think
no, he was hanged by Virginia, I'm pretty sure.
I think he was one of the first people. I forget where it was. I have to look that up. One of the first people of something. Other than destroying all those things.
Dude, we did a video the other day asking people if the Civil War was enough payment for like slavery reparations and stuff, like if that was enough payment
in terms of what, like
in terms of like there's talk about
bloodshed?
just a bunch of cash, but the bloodshed and stuff, seeing if like, hey, was that a sufficient payment for slavery or no?
I love when white people are saying that they did nothing. White people did nothing for slavery. I'm like, well, white people also did fight the Civil War too,
and won it.
You should know
and
that.
Stopped it.
Right.
Not only did
Hundreds of thousands of lives lost.
like 2 million.
Horrible.
What was
Oh, is it 2 million?
Horrible.
Yeah,
There's
I think
scenes.
it was like a 1.8.
I wrote through
more than I
scenes
thought it was.
in this book that are based on like diary entries from different soldiers from all over the place and some from both sides. That you can smell the blood in their diary, like in terms of how they write it. You know, how
About
just
between
so hardcore.
between
Disgusting.
600 and 1 million dead.
Yeah.
And so
Disgusting.
on the Union side, you had 290,000 dead Union soldiers. The Confederate side was 365,000 dead soldiers. The total casualties, injured, prisoner of war, etc., 864,000 on the Union side and 828,000 on the Confederate side.
Wow.
So it's like 290,000 people died, 864,000 people suffered some kind of injury. Is that not enough for the country to be ripped apart, for people to be shooting and killing each other, for the march to the sea, the ransacking and destruction of the burning of Richmond? None of that. When they come out and they're like, this country was built on slavery, it's like, and it was also burned down partly because of it. So, I mean, I kind of feel like, the payment's done.
When slavery was abolished, the population was like 25 million people. So it's obviously it's evil what was happening with slavery, but to suggest that the country was built on slavery, it's like, really, the slaves built in New York, or like, what are you talking about?
I mean, to be fair, like in a certain respect, yes, in a lot of these places, slaves did construction, slaves worked at the stores, and a lot of people don't understand this either. I would imagine if you ask most, you should maybe do this. Most Americans' view of a slave is probably coming from these movies where it's like a black man in a field being whipped. What they don't also realize is that a lot of slaves were like cobblers, and they were people in cities working at stores and doing regular trade work, but they just they weren't free to leave. They couldn't do whatever they wanted. They couldn't own property. They couldn't read or write, or some of them could, but they typically couldn't. People don't understand that slaves did all manners of work. Yeah. And like none of it was good. You keep taking away someone's agency to strip them from the work they produce is like the antithesis of what this country is supposed to be. But in that respect, in places like New York, slaves did provide a large component. And then the country ripped in half, shot at each other like crazy. Cities were burnt to the ground. Nearly 2 million people suffered some kind of casualty, with nearly 1 million dead. And I'm kind of like, what is that? 1/25 of the entire population died.
Yeah.
Let me.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I think 25 million would probably be a high estimate during the Civil War.
Is that adult age or total?
I think that's total. I believe that's total off the top of my head. 25 million.
31 million people. There were in 1860, the U.S. population was 31 million.
I wonder how many adults.
So 1/30 of the country died mostly because of slavery. I mean, you ask people who are from the South and who have family and history, they'll tell you it wasn't because of slavery. And people need to understand the nuance there. Like you were saying, for somebody who just lived in, Arkansas or something, you've got Union soldiers marching through, shooting, burning, and you're like, I don't know or care. You're fighting.
Right.
The other thing is, people will look at the Civil War and be like, the Union's all good, Confederates all bad. I mean, if you know anything about history, it's just that's such a false way of looking at it.
Pretty sure the most evil dude in the whole thing was Sherman.
Sherman hated black people. I wrote about it fairly extensively, and then also was okay with one of his guys who was, I believe, a general. Someone beneath him, though, so he's not a general, but he was a Union guy who happened to be named Jefferson Davis. Oddly enough, so the simulation's been happening since the Civil War. But this Union soldier named Jefferson Davis was in charge of. They didn't like freed slaves following them, so they killed them. They pulled out the bridge from beneath them as they were trying to cross a river in Georgia during the March to the Sea. Killed them. I believe it was hundreds. I put it in the book. It's a crazy thing. And that's fine.
Real quick, for people who don't know, the March to the Sea, I believe, was the first instance of scorched earth.
Scorched earth here, yeah.
Damn, dude.
Scorched earth.
Scorched earth refers to, in war, destroying arable land, burning down houses, killing civilians, etc., so that nothing can be rebuilt and you decimate their chance at reconstruction.
They would make Sherman neckties. They'd burn the railroad tracks and then pull them and stretch them around trees so the trains couldn't get to the Confederate camps, burned everything down. And then there's a lot of people who would claim that Sherman came to their house and burnt it down. But there were also people who were like advantageous and become marauders and had nothing to do with Sherman, but then went and destroyed things to pilfer. Because
that's still his fault.
Exactly. Yeah, because he created the atmosphere where it's actual hell on earth. He said he wanted to make the South, I believe, squeal.
Scorched earth,
Yeah.
man.
They did it to
That's
Germany.
It's so evil, dude.
Well, that's war.
It is evil.
It's not. It's a war tactic. It's really not evil.
Yeah, no, it's evil.
It's war.
No, Sherman.
Hey, I'm sorry,
I
Dad,
put
it's
this.
evil.
I put this in the book. I look at Sherman as our first atom bomb. You know, and he went down to the South and just decimated. And those people are reeling from that to today. Like in the town in the book, you know, even though Sherman didn't make it to this exact town, these people have family dating back to the Revolution in Georgia, pre-Georgia, pre-United States, and they're still feeling like effects from just how decimated Georgia was from the march to the sea.
So for the people who were in the South, because there was a percentage of these states who were in favor of staying with the Union and who opposed slavery. In fact, Virginia initially voted to stay with the Union, and it wasn't until the federal troops got sent down to Fort Sumter that they just, or I think it was slightly after this, they were like, whoa, this is getting crazy. We're going to break off. And then 4 more states joined. Right. So for what people don't realize is that these states weren't in unison being like, hurrah, secession. There was a vote and there was a split and there was debate.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a family that just happened to live in Georgia. Let's put it this way. Let's put it in a modern context. Let's say you are living in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Yep. It's like fairly woke, huh?
Oh, yeah.
But you're in West Virginia, which is 86% MAGA.
Yep.
Imagine if there was a civil war and West Virginia, being MAGA country, gets invaded by Union soldiers, and then the Union, let's say Federal National Guard come in, take over your house, occupy it. You have no idea why, even though you're like, I don't agree with these people. I don't like what's going on. There's gunfights, and they burn down your property, and everything your family owned is now gone. Do you deserve reparations? After the war is done,
Immediately after?
should they come and say, we're sorry that our invasion of the state had a negative impact on you. We're going to help rebuild your home.
Actually, at the there's actually I believe like a statute for that because it's like during some current. It has to fall around like a current time, so you would deserve reparations from the federal government if immediately after if the federal government did something like that to your property.
And I will say real quick about the massacre, about with what I was saying with Sherman and March to the Sea. Lincoln did go down, and then he took some land from people and gave it to the families of the freed slaves who did survive.
Well, so here's my point. Let's say you were a family in Georgia, and you're like, we don't like slavery. We don't want to be involved in slavery. We don't want to secede from the Union. We can't control it. We're not in politics. We're just some farmers who mind our own business. Then Sherman comes, walks up to your house and throws a torch in it, destroys everything. Your kids struggle to survive. Maybe some siblings die. Now it's 100 or so years later, and you're living in a trailer where your family used to be, farmers of modest living and moderate living. You are now impoverished. Do you deserve reparations for the destruction the Union forces brought to your land?
If it's 100 years later, I have a hard time saying yes to that.
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying when they go to Californians and say, we're going to give you reparations, despite the fact that California was admitted as a free state and has always been against it, it's like, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a virtue.
Well, what they're talking about in California is San Francisco. They're talking about $5 million per descendant of slave or whatever. You have to check a couple boxes. There's like 8 options, and if you check like a few of them or whatever, you can get that $5 million, and it's like an unbelievable amount of money. But also California as a whole, July, they have $223,000 that they're trying to give to each descendant of slave in the state.
You don't need to be black. You need to identify as black.
It did say that.
Yeah.
That's true.
And so we went over this, and there's certain criteria where someone like Rachel Dolezal will be eligible. No joke. Let's move on
That's
from
the clown world, baby.
I think they should do it.
Look, I got to mention too, the Greta Kyle Rittenhouse birthday thing is really crazy.
It's crazy.
But let's move on to the next apocalyptic story, and that's the banking collapse, because we have this from the Washington Post. Why $17 billion in Credit Suisse bonds became worthless. I don't care about Credit Suisse. It's a big bank. It's imploding. UBS, what is that? United Banking Systems or something like that? Someone want to check? I think Union or something. Let's just double check because I forget. What is it?
It's not telling me.
It's not telling you. Just look up. Look it up.
Group.
Yeah, it's got to be bad.
Just do
Google
UBS
says no.
Wiki, bro. Anyway, the
Union Bank of Switzerland.
Union Bank of Switzerland. You see, there you go. They're going to buy
It
out.
was formerly the Union Bank of Switzerland, then they changed it to UBS. I see.
But what is okay?
It used to
UBS
stand for
is its
something.
own
Now it
bank.
just stands for UBS.
It's an investment bank, basically.
So UBS is going to buy Credit Suisse, but their bonds are worthless. What people are basically saying is that the whole system is collapsing. And we have this tweet from Balaji, which is very shocking to the point where it's got a lot of people angry. He says, I will. So James Medlock says, I will bet anyone $1 million the U.S. does not enter hyperinflation. Balaji says, I will take that bet. Now, this guy is the former CTO of Coinbase, which is a crypto exchange. He says, you buy one Bitcoin, I will send $1 million in USD. This is 40-1 odds, as one Bitcoin is worth $26,000. It's currently at like 28. The term is 90 days. All we need is a mutually agreed custodian who will still be there to settle this in the event of digital dollar devaluation. He is saying outright, he thinks that one Bitcoin will be worth $1 million in 3 months. And the argument is, he shows these graphs about Federal Reserve weekly remittances to Treasury. Look at this, going back to 2011. Even when things were bad, they weren't this bad.
Whoa.
Look at unrealized gains and losses. Even when they were bad, it was never this bad. He's got another one showing all the same things. And we already saw that we had this other tweet that we talked about last week that said the bond market believes the system has already collapsed. If that's the case, what he's arguing is people think we live in an analog world. It's exactly how he says it. And that means analog takes a long time, but we're not in that world anymore. It's digital. Information transmission is instant, which means it's either 1 or it's 0. Everybody knows it happened or nobody knows it happened. Back in the day, if there was a market collapse, the only people who knew were the people at the market. They're in the stock exchange going, what's happening? Then they send pony riders out with letters to inform the investors who then panic. I can't remember what show I was watching or a movie or something where a guy goes to withdraw money in California, but the bank has shut down. And so he has to race the bank messengers to a northern bank to beat the message. The idea is the company's freezing withdrawals because they're going out of business or something like that's happening. The bank's collapsing. So the bank he goes to says, sorry, sir, you can't have your money because we're shutting down. He then has to get to a northern branch, which is like 3 hours ride before the messenger gets there. Because if he gets there first, he'll withdraw his money. Then the messenger comes and shuts it down. That's how it used to. It's crazy. Today, before you even know, they've already made a phone call. So what's going to happen when people finally realize the banks are bust? It's going to be near instantaneous that the dollar breaks. That's his bet. A lot of people are calling him crazy because for Bitcoin to reach $1 million in 3 months, I told him I'll take his bet. Here's what I'll do. I said, I'll buy 2 Bitcoin, $56,000. It's 50, what is it? It's at
29, 28 right now.
28?
Roughly,
so $56,000. And my worst case scenario is when I lose one of those Bitcoin, I'll get $1 million for my 56,000. I'm not going to cry about it, right? So that's why I'm like, I can't believe those odds.
Wait, is he saying he's saying I will send?
He will send
$1 million.
He made a bet with this guy. So I hit him up. We're gonna try and do some kind of I might do a show with him for the culture war. We'll figure it out. But he is saying that he is going to put up $1 million cash for 1 Bitcoin. That's the wager, because he's betting the buying power of the dollar becomes trash and the Bitcoin becomes worth $1 million.
I think he's attempting to instill confidence when you talk about economics. Confidence is the backbone of the economic system. If people don't believe in the currency, they won't use it and it loses value. So he's attempting to create value for Bitcoin, but I think it sounds freaking insane. He's asking for a 10, 40 times increase in the value of Bitcoin in the next 90 days.
40 times increase. So a lot of people are saying he's trying to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. By making this bet, he's gotten a ton of attention for it.
What's the traffic on the tweet? I'm curious.
11.5 million views.
Okay, so there's traffic on it.
Yep. And there's a bunch of news stories have been written about it because he said he told me he's doing it. He is going to put up the $1 million in cash. The dude's probably worth several hundred million or whatever. He's an early Bitcoin investor, so he's probably very loaded and can easily afford to do the $1 million. But this guy needs only to bet $26,000 for a chance to win 1 million. Is that a bet worth taking?
Does he lose the Bitcoin to the guy if it doesn't appreciate?
That's the point.
Don't gamble money you don't have.
No. He doesn't lose it.
Oh, well then the worst case scenario is you still have your Bitcoin in 90 days.
No. Listen. Balaji wagers 1 million in cash, and this guy James Medlock wagers 1 Bitcoin.
And then the winner takes both?
Yes.
I see.
Right.
Yeah, don't bet money you don't have.
You don't take both. You just don't lose what you have.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So if the guy buys a Bitcoin and it stays at $30,000 in 90 days, he gets $1 million. So what's the downside?
Is he going to take this? Is he doing this deal with more than one person, or is this just like a publicity
He said,
scheme?
Here's the thing. He said he was going to do it with two people. He said, I will do it with Medluck and one other person, sufficient to prove the point. So I reached out to him and said, bro, I'll do it. And I don't even disagree with you about Bitcoin and the banks. I just disagree on the 90 days thing.
Did he respond to you?
He said he's only going to do it with this one guy, but he'll come on and we'll talk about it, which I think would be really great. However, I don't think he's in the U.S., so we've got to we'll try and figure something out. I was like, maybe we can do something for the Culture War podcast where, or I'll just do a short segment for Timcast News, because I think talking to him about this is important.
So he's making this bet with one person. Am I just?
Yeah.
I'm just making this clear.
One person.
Okay, one person, and that person's already been selected.
It's the guy who said we're not going to enter hyperinflation.
Okay.
I don't care about the Bitcoin thing. Look, if you don't care about Bitcoin, ignore this. It's fine. But what you should care about is the data he provides on the banking system collapse. So, of course, his whole perspective is Bitcoin is better. But what he's showing in terms of his sources is the unrealized losses and massive collapse of treasuries, bonds, and the banking system.
Yeah, this is the collapse. You wonder if things are going to collapse. We are in the collapse right now. That is why banks are buying other banks. That is a sign of the collapse.
That's the bailout. Mm-hmm. This is what people don't realize either. UBS buying Credit Suisse is the bailout.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen. Here's my prediction. You got First Republic Bank is crumbling. The shares dropped again, like 35, bounced to -8. It was like -35, then -18. Despite the fact they're going to do a $30 billion infusion, despite the fact that the Fed was going to put in what I think like $2 trillion or something. What's going to happen is a bank will buy the failing bank and they'll say, see, it got bought out. Then the Fed will issue their easing or loans to the bank who made the purchase as a way of doing a workaround bailout. Instead of doing a direct government bailout or a direct Fed bailout, a private bank will make the purchase and they'll say, no, there's no banks collapsing. They were just mismanaged and this powerful private bank bought them up.
There's nothing
and it's
to
actually
see here.
Making it stronger. And then that private bank behind the scenes says, okay, Fed, pony up. And the Fed will be like printing the money as we speak.
And they give them a bigger loan because their new valuation with the new acquisition of the new bank makes their company worth more money. The UBS is actually a result of a merger. That's why they went from Union Bank of Switzerland in 1998. They bought Swiss Bank Corporation, became UBS. I think this global bank conglomeration thing's massively dangerous because it gives a small group of people the ability to turn off your money.
So let's yes.
Yeah.
Let's play a game real quick. 1 Bitcoin right now is at 28,000, you said?
Yeah.
And it is unfathomable to us that it could reach $1 million in 90 days. I mean, maybe 100,000 because it was at 60 something, its peak last time. But what if I were to say this? What if I were to say not that Bitcoin is going to go from 26,000 to $1 million in 90 days? What if I was to say the second and third largest banking collapse in U.S. history would happen within 2 days of each other? Would you believe that? You'd say, what, in 2 days? The second and third biggest banking collapse. Imagine if he came out before Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, when Silvergate first broke, and he said, I will bet you $1 million in cash. You put up 26,000, I put up 1 million. If I'm right, I get 26. If you're right, you get $1 million. In 2 days, the second and third largest banking collapses in history will happen. Who would not take that bet? They'd be like, you think hit two black swan events, 2 historical moments are going to happen in 2 days. I'll do that bet. I'm going to win $1 million, and then you'd lose 20 grand. You'd lose 25 grand.
I think it's more likely that Wells Fargo collapses on Friday than it is that Bitcoin is $1 million in 90 days. I think it's more likely we're going to see the biggest bank in the world collapse than Bitcoin go to, because what they're going to artificially control the value of Bitcoin. They're going to jack it up. Then there's going to be a bunch of people will buy. Then all the top dollars will sell off. Then it'll drop again. And the whole time they'll be getting ready to switch out your US dollars for US central bank coins. So you're not going to have to worry about dollars. And then they're going to make Bitcoin look like a bad guy. And they make the USDC look awesome. The digital currency is like the saving currency.
Maybe
even if it did hit $1 million, it would be there for like a week.
And then it would fall to 300.
Yeah.
That's the
They'll
cycle of
jack
Bitcoin.
it up to 60 again, and then all these people will buy, and they're like, "Oh, I missed the boat." It'll be 80, and then the huge sell-off. I mean, that's what they've been
scary
doing
thing
with it.
is-
I don't know.
The scary thing is if Bitcoin starts rising to 1 million rapidly, then a bunch of people buy in, and then it drops to 40. And then everyone's dead broke, and they say, see, this is the problem of crypto. You need a stable cryptocurrency that we can moderate, create a depression, bring in a new banking system, Federal Reserve's digital crypto asset management fund. And then they say, for all those who saw tremendous losses due to Bitcoin, we will be issuing US digital coin, Fed coin, so that you can, have some money back as a major bailout to the working class people. Every liberal will be like, the government should bail these people out. Bitcoin was a scam the whole time, and we've all been saying it.
Right.
And this is what bailouts are for. Are you opposed to the people being bailed out?
That could be the whole plan.
Yeah.
I've been kind of like accepting this digital currency, this USBC. I find myself kind of feeling defeated and like, oh, what they're going to do, this is going to happen. But like Vivek Ramaswamy's super against it. Like, no, we are not having a digital. We're not going into the ESG.
You mentioned just a few moments ago, like turning off people's ability to grab their money or use their money when it came to like banks merging. That would be way worse.
Dude, if two guys in West Virginia were trying to buy hamburgers and then some banker in Switzerland was like, no, sorry, dude, that's why we fought a revolution. You don't get to control my money. That's my job. That's my Congress. That's why we have a Congress.
Yeah. I don't see a way that, if the government gets involved in that, I don't see a way that like that doesn't go south incredibly quickly.
Just like in California when they were turning off thermostats, or was it California or
It was
Colorado?
California.
Or both.
It might have been. It might have been
Colorado.
Colorado.
But they were turning off the thermostats,
Yeah.
right?
That was in Colorado, yeah.
Like that. I reject. I don't like electric cars for that reason, because they're talking about turning off cars or making them drive back to the dealership or whatever if they're being repoed. There's not having your autonomy is disturbing. And that world with digital currency, well, although I like it, if the government is in control of it, I reject that.
It would like imply you have to have a secondary currency. You would have to. You cannot rely on digital.
Which is what
bankers.
crypto should be now, before it's regulated by the government. That should be your.
It is, but cash is good because you can't track it, or it supposedly
cash
is
should be good,
untrackable,
but
and it's just between you and the receiving
Everything's
party.
trackable now.
Yeah, like if a dude sells his cow to somebody for some cheese, why is anyone in the world involved in that? Is so weird. I understand maybe local taxes, maybe because you were cleaning up the roads. You want to make sure that it's not raining poop on the cow. So like we've got fire department making sure your barn doesn't burn down.
Just let me buy a cow in peace, without any government. I just want to be. I'm quickly becoming off the grid as fast as possible and as much as possible.
We're not going that direction anytime soon. We're going further and further into more taxes, more
The
government
line,
hands, and
All
more
of it.
business.
They want
Every single
their hands in your pocket.
every transaction possible.
And do you know about The Line, the city in Saudi Arabia?
I saw it. I
Oh,
don't know much
yeah.
about it, but I did see it. Incredibly
And
creepy. Like
it sounds
dystopian.
fake, but apparently they're actually going to build it.
Yeah.
I think they got.
It's a
started on
15-minute
it.
city. It's one of these things where they put all the humans in one little box.
That's attractive to a lot of people today.
It's
A lot of people want to live that way.
So gross.
a border
Yes.
wall. I think it was. Someone was calling it a border wall.
It was,
They're
it was a
like,
border wall, but
it
you
does
can
look
live
like
in
These
it.
are the people that
Yeah.
get to fight when the border gets attacked because they're the one that live in the border wall.
Just cannon fodder up front.
Yeah, human shields. You're a human shield in your 15-minute city.
Now, haven't there been studies where it's like they compare it to cities with like rats and everybody's really close and there's a lot more illnesses and all that stuff?
Yep.
Won't they see outbreaks like that in an area such as that, or would that
Yes.
just
Look at cruise ships. Look at cruise ships.
I mean,
all that stuff.
I feel like they've tried the same
That's
thing
why
as the
they'll-
line, but with rats, and it's worked out awfully.
You have to be
every
massively
time.
vaccinated in your 15-minute city as well.
Yeah.
Because of that
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yep,
that's-
yep.
Every day, probably.
You see that video that's going around of Fauci walking around asking people?
Yes.
And they're yelling at him.
Classic.
It's remarkable.
It's from 2021. Why did
Oh,
you,
wow,
it just
yeah.
came out. What's?
Can we play a bit of that?
Yeah, we should.
Was
We'll
it Bowser? Mayor
get it
Bowser
up.
and
And,
Fauci?
Mayor-
we'll get it up on the members only, and then try
That
and
guy's
take
a
some
hero.
Oh
some,
my
some
gosh,
voice
it's
chats
great.
from the
Yeah.
Discord server.
He
Get
goes
that
up,
guy on Culture
He
War.
goes to some dude's house and is like trying to serve him the vaccine, and the guy's like, that like the flu," and they're
Yeah.
like, "Well, it's different than the flu."
Isn't
because-"
it weird
and he's
when you
like,
try
"Yeah."
to pay someone to take it?
Yeah, they're like, "Yeah, actually, that is kind of weird." Mario Bowser agrees with the guy.
Yeah,
It's great.
Yeah, Ian, that response from that guy, I knew that was going to be the response as soon as I saw the guy. I was like, okay, I talked to like enough like Black Americans on the street to where like they are so conservative and upfront and will give you the facts or just say it the way it is every single time. I knew exactly what we were going to get. And it's a shock that they're not like overwhelmingly conservative, because they tell you how it is. And he responded exactly how like any person on the street, if I were to go talk to somebody about that, any black male that I would talk to on the street, they'd say the same thing. Be super straightforward about it, super based response. Yep. And you're like shocked that they still, the black community in the United States overwhelmingly votes Democrat. It doesn't make it. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense, because they tend to, jump on the race topics and everything like that. But it was an awesome video.
Far and wide, their values are lean conservative.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're incredibly
old school
conservative
Democrats
values.
did too. Like I was looking at Carter. He was fairly conservative. People looked at him and they're like, they don't know if he's conservative or liberal back in the day, because he had conservative values.
It's a conservative community for sure, 100%. And I knew he was going to respond like that too when I saw the video, and it was awesome.
It's also okay to distrust the government fully. And that guy knew immediately something was fishy if they're coming around. I mean, that was probably around the same time that the mayor of New York City was saying, "I'll give you a hamburger." Taking this vaccine.
I think they're paying for it.
They were giving you roller coaster rides, hamburgers, fries, paying you for it, cruise ships. I don't know.
He was like, if you guys are paying me to take this is all. This is as many
at
red
all.
flags as I need.
While you were talking, you said that something about a black male, and then I thought about the word blackmail, which is like where you force someone to do a crime for you. I'm like, what is this black and white crap? Like, black is the evil dark color in so many things.
Because of night and day.
And then they tell, like, you're the black person, you're the white, a being of light, like you're the godly white person, and you are the dark black. Like, come on,
You're reading too much into it,
night and day, and nighttime spooky.
Zuby's into it.
Light and dark, white and black had to do with daylight being warm and safe, and it made plants grow, and darkness was scary, and they were predators, and you were cold.
And obviously at
Really
night,
similar.
dark skin blends in the darkness, and light skin reflects in moonlight.
But that's not it.
Man, Zuby
I
just
don't
said
think
nobody's
it's a skin
black
color
and
thing.
white. What's that?
It's not a skin color thing. It's
No, yeah,
what are you
but
talking about?
night and dark. That's what night and
I
day.
think it comes
set
from like
and
when they
raw.
would fight at night and they couldn't see their opponents is a big part of it. Why the racism?
Never heard that one.
No, bro, you like. I appreciate
I'm just trying to be
that.
real about shit.
How long
Yeah,
ago are
but-
you talking about?
Oh, in
No, but
before electricity, ancient, where they fighting with knives and stuff in the woods, dark woods and stuff.
But in the darkness, you can't see anybody. It's not like white people are glowing.
you might catch in the moonlight kind of like glimpses of
What's
shapes
happening
and
is
stuff.
you are making an interesting point. However, I think that point would not be brought up if you read about it before saying it. The issue is simple psychology. It's not even about skin color. There are people who would wear certain
Oh
clothing.
yeah, paint their faces black at night like Navy SEALs.
No,
and
no,
stuff.
no. I'm saying in Europe, 1,000 years ago, they would see somebody wearing a certain kind of clothes and go, "It's an enemy." It didn't matter what the race was. It was just an outsider. Outsiders were dangerous. So racism is born of the same thing as if you're different from me. It's the easiest thing someone could notice right away to see that you are not from my city. You are not part of my group. And that was a threat. If I don't know you, how am I supposed to know if it's safe to be around you? And so you get racism. We are learning a lot about why that's stupid, because people are people. We have communications now. Like we have cell technology. That's really proximity is what ends bigotry, as it were. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. I just want to go back to that money stuff real quick because, someone pointed out, who cares about Bitcoin at $1 million? What about Doge?
What about Doge?
I would love it if Doge got up to $100.
I had Doge
because I just checked and I'm like, oh, I have Doge.
I have Doge. I don't know where it is though. I did. I know nothing about crypto, but I did get Doge just to use this.
Somebody mentioned it and I looked and I'm like, I have quite a bit of Doge.
I think I
would
got
very much
Doge
like
when it
for
was
Doge.
around like
Doge
6 cents, and then it went to like 70 cents or something. That's probably when I sold, when Elon was on SNL and it
yeah,
surged.
what did it hit? I'm trying to.
I thought it just hit.
It was 63
cents.
Did one of you guys just say this and I just wasn't listening? It did just hit like a peak, right? Or
No,
56
Doge
cents.
is at about 7 cents right
Yeah,
now.
Doge had a renaissance a few years ago. I made more off Doge than I did as a professor at a college.
Oh, really?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
That's
great.
very
Doge,
cool.
Doge was dope.
Yeah, I
man.
think.
But it dropped.
The crazy thing is, it was at like a tenth of a cent.
Oh yeah,
In
even
2020.
less. Yeah,
Right.
Wow.
it was.
Could
as
you
low as,
imagine?
like 0.02 of a cent?
There are Dogecoin millionaires. If
Yes.
it was at, 4/10 of a cent. In 2020, it was at 1/10 of a cent. So imagine if you bought 10,000.
Dude, in 2017, when it was 0.02 of a cent, I was like, get this trash coin crap off my index. I'm tired of looking at this junk. I tire these coins that go under and they're
What year
useless
was
stuff.
that?
No.
2017. when I was doing a lot of investment.
Dogecoin is probably going to be like something
It
legitimate.
was pure junk trash, and then Elon was like joked about it, and now it's a real crypto.
But the reason why is I think Elon pointed this out. Dogecoin is an inflationary coin that's meant to slowly increase the supply of Doge available intentionally because demand will go up. Whereas Bitcoin is deflationary. At a certain point, there will be no more Bitcoin and it will slowly cease to exist. Dogecoin can never fall out of circulation based on how it functions. So some people have speculated that Doge is cash and Bitcoin is gold. Gold isn't. I mean, I'm sure at some point we'll figure out how to. I'm sure we can manufacture gold somehow with some kind of like. Gas
we can
synthesis or
fuse
something.
platinum with hydrogen. I think that's how it's happening in the sun.
There you go, and eventually we'll get there.
The problem
And
with
be able to mass
the
produce
problem
or
with
something.
Doge was when it was up to whatever it was, 60 or 70 cents.
Yeah.
Those trading apps were shutting down, so people couldn't sell. And they were like, you can't. They were sending out messages like you can't do this or whatever.
Well, is
And we're like,
Doge-
wait, this is my money.
Do you buy like Ethereum to get Doge? Is that what it is? Or
No,
no?
Ethereum, I believe,
You can buy Doge in cash.
is separate. Yeah,
Is it okay?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
separate.
I don't know.
Depends
Does
on where
coin?
you go.
different cryptos. I think
Different
Ethereum was looked at as more of like a established.
I am not giving
crypto.
anybody advice. I don't know what you should do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I have Doge because I bought it a long time ago.
Yeah.
I bought it when it was only a few cents.
Yeah, same.
I think I bought it at a nickel.
What was the high? Was it 2020 or 2021 that it was reaching its peak?
Probably
21.
Was it
21?
Yeah, it was like March 21.
It was
just
when
looking at
the
it.
whole Wall Street thing was happening.
Okay, there were a
was
lot of people
shorting
made
everything.
a lot of money.
Oh
on
heck
that.
yeah!
A
Elon bought
lot
a
of
ton
money.
for his
Dude,
kid.
and it went from 63 cents to 30 cents, within a month. So within 2 days, it dropped 20
Yeah.
cents. I mean, it dropped 15 cents. So it peaked, and then everybody sold.
Yeah.
A bunch
It's
of
all
people
it's
sold.
all confidence. Some people are
crashed.
pointing out with this Balaji thing that when he says you buy one Bitcoin and I'll send $1 million, if people are like, okay, let's say the guy holds 100 Bitcoin, he only needs Bitcoin to go up a couple percentage points to cover the cost of the bet. If Bitcoin goes up 10%, he's going to make way more money than it cost by doing the stunt. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, who
Right.
knows? Who knows?
I think
Yeah.
Doge is on the Binance smart chain. It's different than the Ethereum smart chain. So you use different tokens to buy it. But there are places like Coinbase that'll do that for you where you can buy it with cash. See, the thing I don't like about the way Doge is built is the infinite supply that Tim was talking about earlier, because it just allows for infinite inflation and devaluation of the currency. Whereas you can always take a Dogecoin and then sell 1/10 of it or 1/100th of it or 1,000th of it. So you don't need an infinite supply. You can always break it apart infinitely, or at least so many times that you have a huge hundreds of trillions of amounts of pieces of token to sell. And then you just create a new token when you're ready, when you run out. Then a new Bitcoin Plus that has another 17 million coins. And you know ahead of time where you're going to be at. So it never gets out of control, because the dudes can just print another 100 trillion Dogecoins
Right.
and make them all worth half.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with your friends. Become a member at timcast.com. Click that join us button for two big reasons. One, we have our Discord server set up. So when you sign up, there are instructions in the menu bar for Discord where you can join the chat, hang out with people, and we're going to take calls. We're going to have people who are in the chat talk and ask questions for us and the guest. And I think we'll be able to do that today. We haven't worked out the kinks, because the issue is with 1,000 people in the room, how do we pick who gets to be the one person ask the question or the three people? So what we've built is a way to submit, like, hey, I want to ask this. And then we can go through and be like, here's a guy who says he wants to do this. So we'll try. And it's the uncensored show. So, who cares? We just grab a random person and be like, what up? Ask something. You know what I mean? But you'll also get access to the uncensored members only show, which will be live at about 10:10. So definitely check that out. And now I'm going to try and scroll
That's
back
such
up.
a good idea with the calls. I think that's a great. That
was
was a
Ian's
great
idea.
idea that you guys came. That was a great
So
idea.
good.
Ian's idea. So we
building
did it.
community,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Yeah,
all-
that's a great. I love that. That's
So
awesome.
I'm going to start by reading a regular chat from El Acapulco. He says, siren emoji. Physical gold and silver are the only real store of value and the only escape from the system.
Nah.
Only if the system exists. Because if there is no system, who's going to buy your gold or silver? What will you do with it? So I often explain it to people very simply, and I've explained it to many of you who listen. If the apocalypse happens, let's say like a fungus takes over people's brains, and then you're walking down the street, and you see a guy with a sandwich and a guy with some water, and you have a bunch of gold coins, do you think either of them are going to do trade with you? Or a better way to put it is, there's a guy with a jug of water, and you walk up and say, I'm so thirsty, please can I have some water? He says, no, what do you have to trade? You say, I have gold. He's going to go, and what do I do with gold? And then another guy's going to walk up and go, I have elk. And he's going to say, I will give you some water if you give me some elk. And then they will trade, eat, and be merry, and you will be holding heavy metal that is draining your energy and causing you to require more food because it's so damn dense.
And making you move slowly and become a target. It's not a valuable commodity. I mean, it's valuable to the point where they would take it from you and keep it for later to sell it.
Only if the system exists.
Yeah, but at an organized place. Like, you're not going to sell it on the street.
If there is no civilization, your gold and silver are worth nothing.
It's for like superconductors. You would use it for like making rings and things out of. There are values to touching certain metals, like they have antibiotic properties. Silver does.
Any sort of recovery with a civilization, though, they would be looking for some form of currency, and that's where it would actually help for sure. I mean, unless they go somewhere else and there's value in something else. But when it comes to like all out destruction, no civilization at all. Yep. Yeah, probably not going to bring it. You'd rather have a rifle with you. But any sort of recovery process or on the decline, I would imagine gold and silver would actually be quite useful.
It's funny because the second chapter of the book is the scene where the Confederates are burning down their own capital and scrambling because they have their money. All they have left is their cabinet and their money. Yeah. And the city's on fire, so they think they're going to use the money elsewhere, maybe Mexico.
They burned their own city down, though?
They burned their own city down because they didn't want the Union to get it.
But I thought that was contested.
No, I'm pretty sure if you read a lot of the diaries from people back then, like even from William Howard Parker, who was a guy who burnt down his own ship, a Confederate.
Oh, wow.
And then went and helped take the gold to
what was
Georgia.
that ironclad they had? What was that called?
I don't know.
The Confederate ironclad that made
first
him
one.
Basically,
it was the USS Indomitable, I believe.
Was that what it was?
I think that was the Union, and there was another one from the Confederates. I don't remember what it was, but that was the first like armed ship battle in history because they both made ironclads at roughly the same time.
Oh yeah, no, this one I think it was called the Patrick Henry, and they stole it from the Union, and then they burnt it down. It was an old ship.
The Virginia, and there was another one. I watched this documentary about it. It was epic.
Yeah,
but it was funny not so funny, but thinking of their civilization is collapsing. Their literal capital has been burnt down.
Right.
Like, where do we do with this money? They didn't have any. They kind of aimlessly traveled south with the money, the gold and the Mexican dollars and their like jewels, And
they buried it?
Well, a lot of it disappeared. I think people pilfered it along the way. Desperate soldiers. They see the death of their country, the Confederacy, and they put it in their pockets and bounce.
All right, we're going to read your super chats, so we'll jump to it. We've got this one from Adrienne Curry. She says, look at me, I'm important. Well, all right. Okay.
Good work, Adrienne.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Good work.
All right. Amasang says, imagine if the Democrats just ignored Trump. Not easy, sure, but wouldn't that send a stronger message? Probably not as profitable, though. Mm-hmm. You are correct. This is the issue. The media is obsessed with him because he gets them clicks, because the cult is obsessed with him. But the most powerful move they could do if they wanted to win is just say nothing about him and never talk about him.
Yeah, they can't help themselves with that.
Yep.
I mean, that's why we were talking about this benefiting Trump largely. There's many ways that it benefits Trump, and even if that's the consequence, they don't care. They want to see him behind bars, and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. We have the super chat from Beef, who says that they have severe stomach pain and they also have IBS. Well, I'm sorry to hear it, Beef. I hope you get better.
Yeah, feel better.
Consult your doctor about what's right for you to treat your IBS. Goldilocks Production says, if they arrest Trump, I have a feeling lines between parties will be solidified and things will collapse much faster. This is how you break the country apart. Agreed. Yeah, seriously. And you got to consider that too. We're looking at the price of Bitcoin in that whole conversation based on traditional market factors. And we need to consider the second and third largest bank failures happened back to back within 2 days. And they're going to arrest for the first time, they're threatening to, a former president. Those are things that can destabilize a system. And when Balaji's like, Bitcoin's going to go up, here's the bank stuff. I'm also like, you know what else causes hyperinflation? Political uncertainty. Yep. So if the front runner for the presidential election in 24 gets arrested, and then there's an attempted indictment, and everyone's like, I don't know what's going to happen, people are going to probably flee the dollar because the U.S. government is what backs the dollar. And if there's no U.S. government, then who's backing what?
Yeah, that's that Biden veto concerns me because Congress was trying to be like, hey, stop investing the U.S. dollar in woke crap that's not returning an investment. Put it in profitable stuff. And Biden's like, nope,
You're talking about the veto today.
He said, "No, I don't think I will."
Yeah. No, I don't.
No, I don't think I will.
Oh God, that's loss of confidence in leadership and the ability of the dollar. If he's really going to put it into stopping oil from burning, my God.
That one gamer says a good candidate for the Culture War podcast would be Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy. Best Christian channel on YouTube, hands down. Could be a good debate with him and Ian. That'd be cool. Yeah, we should do a religion Culture War podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Culture War podcast, Fridays, 1 p.m. at youtube.com/Timcast is, we just started, I think we've done, four episodes. Wow, look at that.
I got to check that out. I haven't watched
And
it
it's
yet,
just-
but I saw that you guys did that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's less news-driven and more culture conversations.
Yeah.
And so we're probably going to have musicians. I think we actually do have a couple of musicians ready to come on. And, we did. We had Pete Parada already. And that's just talking about issues. We're not going to be looking at articles like we do on this show or anything like that.
We were talking about the Antichrist the other night. And
Oh, man.
the second coming of Christ.
And people believe Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
I think it's like an energy. Many people will embody the Antichrist. Many people will embody the Christ, and it'll kind of be within us. The battle will be what am I? Am I the anti? Truly look at yourself and your behavior, and kind of got to decide that for yourself.
Yep.
That's deep. That's a heavy conversation. You're saying people think Trump is the Antichrist.
They did the same thing
I haven't
for
seen
Obama.
anyone talking about
People
that.
were saying Obama was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to more liberals, man.
Liberals who also believe in Christ, I guess.
No.
Or they're just using the word Antichrist.
What you got to understand is that liberals will come out and be like, why are you doing the X? The Bible says you must do this. And then you're like, you're not even a Christian. What are you saying? And they're like, that doesn't matter. So when they come out and they're
no
like,
good faith argument ever, right there.
Sure. When they come out and they're like, Donald Trump is the Antichrist, look at the prophecy. You're like, you don't even believe that stuff. It doesn't matter. As long as it benefits their agenda, they will claim to believe whatever they have to believe.
Yeah, they get the political points. They'll jump to that argument.
I love the religious arguments they make where it's like, dude, you're not even religious. How is that an argument you're making to somebody else when they know you don't believe it anyway?
I love the free speech arguments when they're like, this is unconstitutional. You're they'll try to grandstand and be this constitutional authority within an argument or something like that. It's like, dude, you guys is the president, like we mentioned previously, the president launched a what's it called? Misinformation governance board.
Yeah.
A ministry of truth.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know why you're lecturing me about the First Amendment here. So, what?
All right, let's read some more. James Eaton says, let's say he is arrested. How would that work? Does a Secret Service go to jail with him? What about his food? How can he be protected in public jail? Yep. Could you imagine if Trump, I think there's a strong possibility Trump will surrender. Trump wants that photo of being arrested the same as the left wants it.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the problem.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When the left gets the victory, they're done. When the right sees the persecution and the prosecution, they're enraged. That's why it's a stupid move. And these people are like, if the right really thought arresting Trump would help them, they'd be cheering for it. If the left is motivated by stopping Trump and they see a perp walk, how many liberals are going to be like, we did it, guys. Pack it in. Time to go home. Trump's been arrested. How many Trump supporters are going to say, to the streets? Rah! So certainly, if Trump gets indicted, I imagine he'll be on the first plane and be like, oh, woe is me. Put his hands behind his back and be like, whatever you say, Mr. Officer.
Yep.
You need to protest something. I'm not going to do
What if they-
crap
what-
that'll come out of his mouth.
What if he does? They bring him to holding, refuse to release him, and then New York State just says, we don't care. He's not getting out.
Well, they were saying they were actually bringing up no bail. I mean, nobody's serious, but Democrats have been talking. I think MSNBC they were talking about it. Maybe it was CNN, and they were saying no bail because of his call to protest.
Yep.
Because what he meant by protest wasn't protest; it was violence. That's what they
and
were
a New
saying.
York judge who's going to be a far leftist cult member is going to say, you have already incited insurrection. You are likely to cause more violence. Therefore, you are being remanded to the custody of New York State pending a trial to be set at a later date or something like that.
Meanwhile, I believe our vice president or people in her campaign were donating money to bail out people during the riots who were literally burning down places.
She tweeted a link for a bail fund that was raising money for violent rioters.
I believe they found some bodies in those burnt down
That's what I'm
bodies
saying.
many months or 3 months later.
If Trump had pulled two dudes around the back of the house and shot him in the head, I'd be all about this indictment. But it was some dumb finance thing.
He banged some porn star at a party or something like that. And they're like, lock him up. And I'm
Allegedly.
like, huh? Allegedly. Yo, there was this tweet where someone was like, if he committed the crime, he should go to jail. And it is violation of the rule of law if they don't charge him. And I was like, oh, well, he must be talking about Obama killing that 16-year-old American citizen. Oh, no, he was talking about Trump bribing a porn star.
Right. It's not like this obvious thing. It's this, oh, that's a stretch, and holy crap, you're going for a felony too. This is insane. And it's not just like, it's not like this is the first person that's looked at this. Mueller checked it out.
Yeah.
Southern District of New York checked it out.
Yep.
And now we have, what's his face? The DA. It's their third or fourth attempt to get something from this.
We got Brendan McGrath Music says, shout out to Shane for his great interview on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast. My two favorite podcasts getting together for a fascinating discussion.
Sweet. Thank you so much for listening to that. That was an honor to be with Bret, one of my favorite authors of all time.
Yeah. That's cool stuff. All right. Guadalupe says, last week Friday, selective service posters were placed all around the school I work at reminding boys assigned male at birth, ages 18 to 25, to register for the draft because of rising tensions with Russia and China. Scary. What? Can you send a picture of that? Do you have a picture of that? I would like to see that. Assigned male at birth? Yeah, good luck drafting anybody that way. Assigned male. Steve Smith said, why does nobody bring up the fact that Bill Clinton screwed his secretary in the White House? No, she was an intern. Yeah, not a secretary.
Bill Clinton ended up paying, $850,000 for something to kind of go away as well. He had a situation
was that
was
Juanita
weird.
Broderick or something?
Yeah, he had a situation that was weird. I forgot all the details on
He had
that.
like 4.
A lot of those presidents do.
Yeah, Bill was sleeping
Fast and
around.
loose. Yeah.
Fast and loose.
Yeah.
He'd been hanging around, All right. Villainous Black Dragon Entertainment says, Tim, you were thinking of Bane letting the criminals out from Dark Knight. Also, do you think dopamine addiction is connected to virtue signaling and why people feel pain when not woke enough? Yes.
Dude, definitely.
Absolutely.
But I wasn't just thinking about Bane. The Joker releasing criminals from Arkham, I thought that was an old comic book arc. The Bane
graphic
thing
novel
was...
of that, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember the
I
name.
think that's actually a really common happening in the DC universe.
Yeah, it happens occasionally. Where they're like,
Yeah.
we'll let out Arkham because it's a fun.
Well, no,
it's
like the
great.
Joker breaks them all out.
Right.
He releases all the criminals to wreak havoc on the city.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Where we at? Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Shane, dude, I really enjoyed your The State of Modern Man opinion piece. It read like a poem. The modern soy boy cult member is a weak AF bitch.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite pieces.
Is that what you wrote about?
No, I didn't say he's a bitch, but I did say his skull is a glory hole, and it's a great article about how I feel a lot of people are these days in terms of being weak men and not defending things that I believe are true and right and worth defending.
Yep.
And shout out to Chris Carr and the editors there for putting it up.
Right on. All right, let's get some more super chats. Okay, what is this? The Great Treasure says Trump is going to Epstein himself. Civil War, Tim Drink.
No, I think Trump's going to write a rap record in jail.
A rap record?
Yeah, like Shine when he was in jail. He'll call a producer and he'll be over the phone. It's gonna be amazing.
Watch him just come out with like new tattoos.
Yes, yeah,
face
a
tattoo.
teardrop. A
So
teardrop.
many rappers love him too.
Mine
Like, I can
hits.
see it.
Dude,
That'll be his record.
I mean, I will say that his pardon, he did get Wayne. He got Lil Wayne
that's
and
true,
Kodak
Wayne.
Black. So
Yeah,
maybe
that's
there's like a sweet collab coming.
Culturally, that was actually a pretty epic move right there.
Those were great. There was a lot of more important ones I would have preferred to see.
Totally agree.
But shout out to Lil Wayne.
Yeah, shut up.
Dan Gingrich says the Democrats are releasing criminals in order to sow chaos, blame their opposition, claim they have the solution to the problem they caused, and then push for more power. Agreed.
The intelligent ones, yeah.
All right. 1776's Life says, speaking about gun rights tonight, mine have been violated by Governor Pritzker in Illinois. I'm caught in a hard place. My family owns a 4-generation farm that I would love to keep working. However, I know I will never get my rights back. Is there a right move? Man, I don't know.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, what happened? I just first I've heard of this.
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Brewmaster Monk says Gabbard Paul for U.S. all 2024.
That's an interesting ticket.
Slane Hope says Antifa, Soros, and Schwab proved they own our democracy. What do you think will happen tomorrow? New York City has already spent more money than they can find Trump. One of the fears we have is that they're going to pull some 4 a.m. maneuver. It's going to be in way early hours of the morning when everyone's asleep. That way a bunch of developments can happen before anybody knows. And then you wake up to a bunch of news instead of watching it happen in real time. Makes it harder for people to react.
Really quick to address them like owning our democracy. We allow them to by not controlling the media or any of these powerful institutions that completely allow it. If roles were reversed and there was these powerful, like, Batman evil villain characters such as Soros and we dominated the media, a politician wouldn't be able to accept $1 from a guy like that. So that we really need to get involved in these institutions to start making an actual difference so they can't just get away with this
Well,
stuff.
the problem is people like Soros then buy the media.
Yeah.
So that they can control that narrative and make sure it doesn't happen.
We have billionaires too. They need to. We need to get to work. I mean, I'm
Sure
not a
do.
billionaire,
But it's not about the money. The
I
money
complain about
used-
this all the time.
It used to buy you access money. That's what it was for. But it's really about the access itself. Internet video. You have the power to change the world now with media. But I was telling my mom yesterday, and she's like, "How do you even plan to do any of this?" I was like, "Internet media.
Yeah.
The internet video has changed the entire media scale. The entire surface of the game is gone.
There's
It's a new reality.
multiple directions we can go in, like we as in like liberty loving Americans can go in, and I think one direction certainly is that route of going this video social media.
A 15-year-old can go become a multi-millionaire media mogul in like 3 years.
Yep.
By the time it's amazing. Just one guy owns everything.
And they have
entire
they
company.
have serious cultural influence as well. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, you can say do this, 10,000 people do it.
Yeah.
Like that is so powerful, and it's massively dangerous.
That's terrifying.
That's why we got to keep each other humble. But it's the true power of the nature of the cult, of personality that it's been created.
This is a very important one from Drift Motive, who says, "Please hit like everyone." That is a very good point. You should hit the like button if you have not already.
That is absolutely correct.
That's right. Decide Thought says, idea for Discord server, add channel cultural endeavors so we can share our cultural endeavors with members. Addendum, separate channel for meme culture to prevent overloading the channel with memes. So we are starting slow. I think there's only, like 3 channels? 3 channels? Because we have like a moderator. And we don't want to get the thing shut down before anyone has a chance to do anything substantive. So I think what we're planning on doing is creating a bunch of different rooms, for different kinds of creative work. And then the Elite Club is where, ideally, if you want to sign up for that, that's where I'll be hanging out. Maybe, I don't know if Ian wants to. I think Phil said he'll even like play music and stuff. And other Timcast crew members will be in the Elite Club. And, the goal is just to create, look, it's a relatively cheap social club endeavor because it's not necessarily just about making money, though we do as a business need to make money to expand. But the big liberal social clubs, like in New York City, for instance, they're about $4,000 per month. It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. But hopefully we get this building set up, which is currently underway, and we're going to have like a $100 a month West Virginia, not to be disrespectful, but a lower income scale because we're not about the elite New York liberal.
Freedom loving though.
You're right.
That's
Yeah,
it.
and
I think it's awesome.
A lot of those 4,000 a month would get you access to a building with like materials, free food, free drinks.
They do.
You got, but then so now we've got internet video, so it's like cheaper to connect, but it's also doesn't cost as much to join.
I mean, those clubs are awesome. Like, if you're rich and you can afford it, you show up. It's really nice. All the rich people are hanging out, talking to each other. This is how they make money. They're friends. They network. There's not that many of them. They spend $50,000 a year to hang out at this club with free drinks, free food, and then they sit at a bar and they know each other, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you work in construction, right? I got this idea. Here's what I want to do. I think I'll make a bunch. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll connect you with this guy." And networking is so important. So we got to create something like that. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But you got to fund it. So the idea is our space in West Virginia is going to have like on the 3rd floor food and drinks, but probably more like potato chips, dip, sodas and beer with some gaming tables, and it will be only $100 per month, not 4,000. But the money is to pay for someone who's going to be working there. And honestly, we've talked about it,
$100 is a great price.
but it's probably a loss if we did it that way. But I'm like, well, we can't charge more than that because we're starting from the bottom. We're not starting from the top. So if we've got to have someone working there 24/7 or, and we've got to have food and drink stocked, 100's probably not, it's probably too low to do it, but I'm willing to subsidize it.
It's a low price.
Yeah. But we're starting with this Discord server room, and then maybe we can make something of it. Yeah, I think we got a handful of people in there already, so I really do appreciate it.
People chilling in the elite chat room.
Yeah, man. Are you in the Discord? We got it pulled up right here, actually. So hopefully in the members only portion of the show.
That's awesome.
Some people are mentioning they're having issues. If you're having issue with the Discord, just email members@timcast.com. And for the people who are like, damn, $100, like I said, the actual liberal elite clubs are like $4,000 or $6,000 a month. And right now it's just the Discord room, but we have the building. It has 3 floors. It exists. It's in West Virginia. We have to do the construction. What is this?
Oh, I was just looking at the chat.
Oh, you gave me this weird look.
IRL live. No, I was thinking about the construction. The place is still, it's raw. I've only seen video of it at the moment.
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out, can we just open it anyway and then start off the elite club with a big empty building and then let people turn it into what they think might work or something?
Yeah, you mentioned that a few weeks ago. What was the status on that? It's just
permits.
Okay.
Yeah, and unless I'm directly involved and mercilessly beating the people who are doing it, nothing gets done.
Whips and chains.
Well, whips are too far.
gotta get
Maybe
a
like
bullet on the
a
wall.
truncheon or something, you know. Retractable baton. But this is what happens, you know. I'll say, hey, can we make this happen? They'll go, you got it. And then they stopped working on it. And I'm just like, okay. And then people are complaining like, hey, how come it's not getting done?
Whips
I'm
were
like, that's a good
made to
point.
be cracked.
Oof, that was brutal. All right.
Yeah, I don't like saying it.
I don't like hearing it.
I'm a chaos mage.
Holy moly.
All right. What do we got? Damian Master says, yo, if Florida doesn't turn over Trump, New York will be forced to Biden to send feds to get him. Interesting. Civil war? But I don't know if DeSantis has the balls to actually defy something like that. I mean, what are they going to do if Trump's like, I'm not going? But I think Trump will surrender. They said he would, and it's the greatest campaign opportunity for him. They don't understand. It takes the wind out of their sails, and it puts the wind in the sails of the Trump supporters.
Yep. Big time.
All right. Jazz says, Tim, fun fact, I'm a direct descendant of the Confederate President Jefferson Davis.
Whoa.
Wow. I bet he has a lot of descendants at this point, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
thousands.
one thing I found out while writing this book. Maybe other people know it who know the Civil War better than me, but he had an adopted black child. His wife saw a black child being beaten in the street, and she adopted him.
Oh, wow.
I felt bad for him. He was with them supposedly until the very end, until the Union actually captured Davis.
Did they let him go? Did they pardon him and everything?
No one know. Oh, Davis? He was let go. Yeah, he was in jail for a little bit. I think he started writing his book in there. And then I believe he was just let go. They couldn't really get him. Yeah.
They pardoned him?
Was it a pardon? I don't know what they were calling it then, but they were trying to get him for, I forget the words, but they didn't do it in the end.
The Meep Kid says, Robert E. Lee was against slavery but fought for the South. In one of the battles, Ulysses S. Grant tried to recruit him. Wow.
He's a fascinating guy, Robert E. Lee. I had a friend growing up. My best friend growing up loved him, and I was always like, "But he was fought for the South. Isn't that evil?" And he'd be like, "No. He fought for his homeland.
Yeah,
that's what made him so great." Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of it was. It wasn't for a lot of people in the South. It was you were fighting because the Union was coming and telling you obey. You know,
right?
And so only I think 5% of the country actually owned slaves.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, and it was bad. And they were like wealthier people who wanted cheap labor.
Yeah. One of the things Grant said after the war too is that we don't want to treat these as the others. They're our fellow countrymen again. The country's united again. We're not going to hold them responsible or put them to trial or anything like that. It's one of the reasons I think that Davis wasn't generally pardoned by the president, but he wasn't taken up. They didn't get him in trouble basically.
I am excited though for when the West Coast tries to secede. Trump sends in the troops, and then California, Washington, and Oregon enter a period of reconstruction because they desperectly need
We'll
it.
get that high-speed rail that they've been talking about for so long.
A lot of our cities.
You know, you can call it
reconstruction.
that, but reconstruction. But basically, what it means is you're going to get rid of the corrupt government.
Yeah.
We're going to fix the corrupt governments.
Reconstruction was a failure in the South too, though. You know, it didn't
Right,
go
I'm
well,
joking
but,
for
but
people
they
who-
do need it in a lot of the cities in this country.
I'm
especially
saying
out west.
those places need heavy reform.
Yeah.
But, you know, I look forward to Media Matters writing Tim calls for violent occupation of West Coast states.
Oh yeah, shout out to those people. Great articles written about
You got
all
friends
of us.
over there too?
Yeah, they love me. Yeah.
All right. Raymond G.
popular.
Stanley Jr. says, dang it, Ian, you ain't lying. Saying ish will happen 3+ years back in 2020 and now today. The circle connects. I'm rooting for not the fall, bud.
Interesting. I did see the inflation.
Man,
on
are we
the
on
wall.
year 3 of IRL?
Yeah,
already?
March 2020 is when that inflation crap. When I came into the room and I was like, dude, inflation's going to go nuts because they just printed a bunch of money. There was that COVID package.
Yeah.
And then it was like 8 months, 10 months, 15 months later, you start to see it.
Yeah.
And we bought all that crypto. We were both like, this shit is happening, and everything went up.
Yeah, what the Biden administration's doing right now, they're comparing, they're saying like, oh, we've cut spending. And they're just comparing their spending to the highest dollar amount in 2020. It's like, dude, come on. You're still like way above 2019.
Yup.
OTM Marketing Podcast says if you click join Discord in the embedded link at the bottom of the page, that link works. Top link does not work. Interesting. All right, let's grab one more. Brian Taylor says start coordinating the purchase of stock on the institution, buying material positions in the institution stock and become activist. I think there may be typos there. Cleaning house with the board. Oh, I think he's saying buy stocks in these companies so that you can vote and then fix these companies. All right. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and become a member at timcast.com. Go to timcast.com, then click join us in the menu bar, sign up, and we will have a members-only, live, uncensored coming up for you in about 10 minutes. And if you are signed into the Discord, we will make an attempt into pulling in someone for a call-in. I don't know exactly how we can do it. Maybe we'll just grab a few people who want to and put them in a voice channel and then turn the voice channel on and see if that works.
That's awesome.
Sounds great.
Yeah, because we were like, how do you ask 1,000 people who wants to be the person to ask the question for the show or whatever? But yeah, go for it. It's going to be fun. And you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. James, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/James Klug. You can also catch me on Twitter at RealJamesKlug. You guys, thank you for having me. Really
Absolutely.
Awesome. I am at Shane Cashman on Twitter and Instagram. I'm asking you to please go purchase this book. I've never been more proud of a book.
It's
huge.
huge.
It's huge. The paperback is available right now at ghostofthecivilwar.com, and the ebook will be available at midnight. Shout out to Jessica Boone for doing this amazing cover.
Yeah, let me see that cover.
Shout
awesome.
out to Chris Carr for being the editor. Shout out to Tim for sending me to Washington, Georgia, where my life was turned upside down every time I went there. Oh, and shout out to Clint Brantley, who's the family who brought me down there in the first place. But I love this book. I'm very proud of it. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm happy to finally have it out. And
how many pages is it?
It's 473 pages.
Holy crap.
Tell me that URL again where people buy that.
It is ghostofthecivilwar.com.
Ghostofthecivilwar.com.
Yeah. Ghosts was bought up, so we were like, dang.
Singular.
So we just, But it's there. The paperback is available right now. Ebook tonight.
I've been saying this. I feel like this is the kind of stuff, these stories are exactly up Joe Rogan's alley.
Yeah.
It'd
be great to talk to him. I mean, this book, it encompasses everything. It's funny talking today about like the banks failing, the money, the country collapsing, the presidents not being trusted, violence. It's like a reflection of, the Civil War, and we just keep going through this madness.
Word.
So it's a happy book.
Okay, good. It's a white pill, but not oxycodone. Thank you very much, Shane.
You're welcome.
Good to see you, James. And also, I wanted to make clarification. Dogecoin's based off of Litecoin, and it actually apparently has its own blockchain. I thought it was on the Binance blockchain. It is when you go to MetaMask. But there you go. I'm Ian Crossland. I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys in the Discord on the after show. Let's see how this technology goes.
Yeah, and I am at Serge.com. Please argue with me on Twitter. I had some music that dropped on Friday. I wasn't on the show. Kellen was doing the podcast. If you want to check that out, it's on Cool Contest Records. Please, if you like dance music, go for it. Thanks, guys.
You know what else?
That's
we have a
awesome.
song coming out on Friday. I'm supposed to promote it.
Ooh,
Hell yeah.
Promotion.
Bright eyes.
Maybe I should say that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, it's good. It's the first one we recorded, but we held it until it's coming out No, it was the second one we recorded because you did Will the People
this was the
first.
Well, yeah, that was
a
a
while
long
ago. That was without Carter, before Carter.
This is the first one we did with Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been sitting on it for about a year. So I love it. I think this song's great. I hope the audience likes it as much as I do. I really enjoy it. I like the harmonies. There's three of us. Was it me, you,
Carter,
and Carter singing on it?
And there's a clip I posted on my Instagram of just like a quick little snippet where you can pre-order. But we'll get the links and everything set up for tomorrow, so it's easier for me to tell you where to get it. But otherwise, I'll just be at youtube.com/ I think Timcast Songs, I think the channel is now.
It's Trash House Records.
We'll figure it out. I don't know. It's going to be fun. We filmed a music
find
video.
it.
So anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Head over to timcast.com and we'll have that members only uncensored live in a few minutes. We'll see you there.
Bye, guys.